Thulasizwe is a member of Ukraine's parliament.
This devastating, painful, brutal attacks really just show the usual Russian tactics. Whenever they pretend that they are engaging in any negotiations, they are increasing the military attacks to threaten the people across the country. And I would really want to see a real reaction of the President of the United States of America with additional secondary sanctions.
Recapping the top story, the South African National Taxi Council, Santaco and Gauteng, says taxi operations will only be shut down in parts of Ekurhuleni. This follows threats of a shutdown in the province yesterday. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines soccer action. Bafana coach Hugo Bruges has named his battle-ready squad to take on Nigeria as well as Lesotho. And we've also got athletics news. Christian Coleman just edging Akani Simbine in a photo finish at the Diamond League final. All the details just before 6:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
A very good morning. Our top story is the taxi strike, or possible taxi strike, across the Gauteng region. This is an event that started yesterday in Ekurhuleni, and I think Ekurhuleni as a region will be quite impacted. A call went out last night by Santaco to stay away, for the taxi industry to have a stay away today across the Gauteng province, and it is a bit of a mixed bag. We're getting some feedback from the public saying that there are taxis in Menlo and Pretoria, nothing in Tembisa. Taxis are moving in Soweto. Seen a few in Hatfield, in Pretoria. Main Reef got taxis, so it's a bit of a mixed bag. So I think the Ekurhuleni side will be pretty intense in terms of no taxi service, and what happens through the rest of the Gauteng province, it's likely to be sort of sporadically disrupted. So just be aware of that. Certainly a taxi disruption Friday today. Roads across Gauteng looking all right at this stage. No major problems. If you're on your way out of Durban, out towards Pietermaritzburg, watch for the first of today's breakdowns between Keyridge and Cliffdale on your way to Pietermaritzburg and Cape Town. We start with a heavy backlog already on the N1. It's a broken down vehicle at the R300. Traffic coming in from Brackenfell, piling back through Okavango Road. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
It is coming up to 7 minutes after 6 on this Friday, the 29th of August, 2025. Live and direct from Radio Park Building here at SABC HQ in Auckland Park, Johannesburg, we are SAFM. Good morning to you, wherever you're hearing us from this morning, in every city, in every town, Dorpi, Township, Kasi, village and hamlet. From the highways to the byways, from the hinterland to the heartland. Good morning and happy Friday to you. Welcome to it, the Friday edition of the Morning Brief here on SAFM 104 to 107. Some of what we will tell you over the next 3 hours includes this. Very infuriated about the delay, but not altogether disheartened by the process. That's how the presidency is describing President Cyril Ramaphosa's feelings about the delays to the start of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry public hearings. Days after the Justice Minister Mamuluko Gubai suspended the department's Director General Doc Mashabane and the ICT head Jabu Hlajwayo, we are getting a glimpse into the thinking and frustration that led the president to decide that the duo's alleged infractions were so egregious that they warranted immediate action, even as he was still traveling from Tokyo and coming back to South Africa, and therefore his decision to delegate his authority to the minister, to enable the minister and give her the powers to discipline the Director General. Ramaphosa's office insists the Commission's integrity remains intact, saying the setbacks were purely logistical and not linked to the process's credibility. So at the top of 7 a.m., I'm in conversation with Vincent Magwenya, the presidential spokesperson, to unpack all of that and the implications for the timelines that the president expects from the Madlanga Commission in terms of when it will deliver interim reports and when a final report will be delivered. That conversation at the top of 7 a.m. Online influencers and digital content creators, beware. The taxman is watching, and I should use that expression. The taxman is watching y'all flourish with your earnings and perks, and SARS wants its share. Tax experts say too many content creators are unaware that freebies, sponsorships, and brand deals count as taxable income. Even non-cash perks like free meals, gadgets, or luxury trips must be declared, or influencers risk stiff penalties. So SARS says it is upgrading its systems using AI and data from brands to track undeclared income, making it harder for digital creators to slip through the cracks. So we'll unpack all of that and its implications. A lot of people have been seeing really trying to get onto that level of following that will enable them to monetize, they call it, the content that they create and share on various platforms. So we'll get into that conversation with Keith Engel, who is the CEO of the South African Institute of Taxation. That conversation coming up at about 7:20 this morning. Speaking of the digital content sphere, who owns what these days, really? It seems to be who owns what. It seems to be so fluid. When it comes to content and other creative work happening in the digital space and created with the aid of AI, who owns what? Those cute videos of babies talking with voices of grown-ups, I'm sure you've seen many of them. Those videos with babies talking with voices of grown-ups, usually they are created to look like some of our country's prominent personalities, in the main politicians of the likes of Fikile Mbalula and Gwede Mantashe, Jacob Zuma. They all have babies that have been created through AI that talk exactly like them. But who owns that? And who owns the intellectual property to those babies? Can those people enforce their rights? And what are the commercial implications of a digital economy where copyright and intellectual property appear to be so fluid and pliable and is violated almost willy-nilly these days? So those are some of the questions that the country's legal fraternity is grappling with in this new frontier that includes the rise of artificial intelligence and its impact on intellectual property and copyright law. We'll unpack all of that with Alude Xuba, who is the founder and principal attorney at Xuba Attorneys, and that conversation coming up for you at about 7:45 this morning. So that's how it's looking, some of the milestones of where we are going over the next 3 hours. But of course, your morning brief team is at full strength once again, ready, willing, and able to serve up your essential updates throughout the morning. And Musa at the news desk, Rob Byrne with your traffic, and you heard her voice, the excitement of being back in the studio. Zaikan back with us in studio, watching all things sport for you. Melissa Puta also in studio on standby for you with the morning brief in brief. And as always, Ndauling Lechela will give you insights into the economy, business, and the markets, and Sipo Mandula with an overview of developments around the continent and its diaspora with the Africa update at about 7:20 this morning. Through it all, you are a part of the conversation. Call me. Let's talk. 086 000 2032. Send me a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107. Let's get the Friday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
I'm Andile Ncube umzilankati isiqongo sinoJoji Ntomba eyazizala ke suka le emzimkhulu egugweni ila ke inkaba yasala khona. Your son got a star on his forehead, brightens your every mood when you get as old as I am. What do I like about Mzansi or love? It's home. Beyond football, I enjoy cricket. Or Andile ngo Ace Mabheka. My favorite nickname of all time, like Captain Yamatuta 2000. In everything we do, just like the African continent is the beginnings of life, right? Just like women are the beginnings of life. The SABC and SABC Sport is exactly that.
Catch Andile, Captain Yama 2000 Ngube on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Are you looking for the best savings on spectacles? At Specsavers, enjoy 1,500 Rand off when you get tested at South Africa's trusted and most established optical group. Get 1,500 Rand off all frames in store, or use your 1,500 Rand off on our leading lens enhancements, such as drive light lenses that reduce artificial glare whilst driving. Book online or call your nearest store today. Affordable eye care, Specsavers. T's and C's apply.
Think about 6 years ago, when Amapiano was just a musical instrument, when streaming meant watching water flow, not videos online, and remote work was only said when your remote batteries died. So it makes you wonder, what will the next 6 years bring? All Hino trucks now come standard with a 6-year drivetrain warranty, covering everything from pistons to gears. So although a lot can change in 6 years, our warranty promise won't. T's and C's apply. Hino, all the way.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag The Morning Brief.
Yeah, here to kick us off on this journey, Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. Good morning to you, Melissa.
Morning, Thulasizwe.
Let's start with developments around the Provincial Commissioner of KZN, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, and some of what he said a couple of weeks ago. Those 121 police dockets that were being investigated. Some developments around them, yeah?
Yes, so at least 121 police dockets will be returned to the political killings task team after being removed, sparking allegations of political interference. KZN Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi accused Police Minister Senzo Mchunu of disbanding the task team and obstructing justice. The team formed in 2019 following the Muruanes Commission recommendations investigates politically motivated murders in KZN. Mkhwanazi's claims led to national outcry, Mchunu's denial, and President Ramaphosa establishing a judicial inquiry. Mchunu has been placed on special leave pending the investigation. So we will see how they go forward with these dockets, and that will be interesting to watch.
And while relations between Pretoria and Washington continue to be frosty, some attempts to try and thaw that relationship include the imminent appointment of a new ambassador to Washington.
Yes, so International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says the appointment of South Africa's new ambassador to the U.S. is imminent following the expulsion of former Ambassador Abraham Rasool in March. Despite recent tensions, Lamola emphasized ongoing diplomatic engagement between the two countries. He also confirmed that the G20 Leaders Summit will go ahead in Johannesburg in November, regardless of whether U.S. President Donald Trump attends or not. Lamola noted Trump's conflicting statements about South Africa, particularly on land expropriation, but reiterated that the U.S. is welcome to participate in the G20 Leaders Summit. Preparations for the summit are currently ongoing, with uncertainty remaining over the attendance of global leaders, including Trump and China's Xi Jinping.
Yeah, and then in terms of news back home around the taxi situation, are we able to answer the question, is there or is there not a Gauteng-wide strike by Santaco at this point?
So Santaco in Gauteng has confirmed that taxi operations will continue as normal across the province, except in Ekurhuleni region, where discussions are currently ongoing due to earlier disruptions caused by vehicle impoundments. There will be no province-wide shutdown, so everyone has been reassured about that. The council is in active talks with the government officials to resolve the issues, and an update on Ekurhuleni services will be provided soon as their talks are concluded. Santaco apologizes for the inconvenience and remains committed to negotiating the resolution for this problem. So there will be an update throughout the day for those commuters.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That's Melissa Puta with the Morning Brief in brief. And of course, that situation around the taxis in Gauteng is one that we are watching closely as the pronouncements come from Santaco. Part of it was informed by pronouncements announcements of the chairperson of Santaco in Ekurhuleni, who had said this action that they were taking in that region, that started yesterday in that region, would today escalate and cover the entire province. Now Santaco Gauteng saying that there's none of that. Only a portion of Ekurhuleni is affected. Otherwise, it's business as usual. Do share your experiences if you are observing what's happening on the roads in as far as the running of taxis is concerned.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
18 minutes after 6. On the weather front, no warnings that have come through. So let's go straight to the weather. And it's mostly fine, really, for most cities. So let me quickly run you through them. Pretoria, fine with a minimum of 15 and a maximum of 29. Same conditions in Johannesburg, 14 to 27. Vereeniging, also the same, fine, 14 to 28. Mbombela, fine, 14 to 29. Polokwane will be fine with a minimum of 9 and a maximum of 29. Mahikeng, fine and windy, 12 to 30. Bloemfontein will be partly cloudy and windy with isolated morning showers and thunder showers, 13 to 25. Kimberley, partly cloudy and windy with isolated morning showers and thunder showers, 14 to 23. Uppington will be fine, becoming partly cloudy, 12 to 26. Cape Town will be cloudy, becoming partly cloudy, 12 to 19. George, cloudy with fog in the morning, otherwise partly cloudy, 9 to 20. Gqeberha, cloudy with fog and chances of rain in the morning with a minimum of 13 and a maximum of 19. East London will be cloudy with isolated showers and thunder showers, becoming partly cloudy in the afternoon with a minimum of 14 and a maximum of 23. Durban, partly cloudy, 19 to 25. Richards Bay, partly cloudy, 20 to 32. And lastly, Pietermaritzburg will have morning fog. Otherwise, it will be partly cloudy with a minimum of 12 and a maximum of 30.
Keeping your family healthy this winter can feel like a daunting task. Try the Lung Shield range. It includes capsules to support healthy lungs and immunity, a syrup for kids that supports the immune system and promotes lung health, and an effervescent with 13 essential ingredients to optimize immune function. Put your family's health first this winter with the Lung Shield range. Available without a prescription at leading pharmacies. Lung Shield, prescribed by doctors, recommended by pharmacists.
Do you know what's hiding behind colorful packaging of unhealthy food? Big food companies target children with unhealthy packaged foods that hide high levels of sugar, salt, and fat, which could lead to heart disease, diabetes, and hypertension. But the truth is hidden from consumers. Front of package warning labels are a proven solution to help consumers make informed decisions. The government must act now. We have the right to know what's in our food. Demand front of package warning labels. Sign the petition on heala.org, HEALA.org by 30 September.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Let us celebrate #IzinjaZeGame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
So you thought you were building a business? In this economy? Good luck. But day by day, somehow it grew. You became payroll, procurement, PR, and pressure valve. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. What's that saying again? What doesn't kill your business makes it stronger? Or at least it should be that. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insurer Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
23 minutes after 6. Outrage is mounting across Europe and the UK after Russia's latest missile and drone barrage on Kyiv killed at least 15 people, including 4 children. Among the targets struck were a British Council building and an office that was once occupied by the EU delegation, drawing sharp condemnation from Western allies. The attack comes just days after Washington hosted high-stake peace talks, bringing together President Volodymyr Zelensky, European leaders, and the US President Donald Trump. But despite those efforts, Russia pressed ahead with what Ukraine says was its second largest drone assault of the war. Now European leaders have branded the strikes as quote-unquote senseless and horrific, warning that they were a direct blow to peace efforts and cannot go unanswered. So let's speak to Musam Dunge, who is a political analyst based at the University of Dundee. Good morning to you and thank you for your time. Long time no speak, my friend. So let's start with the reaction of the various European leaders. Strong words coming out of London, Brussels, and other capitals. But did this come as a surprise, though? Because there was never any pledge, despite all of the talks in the Washington process, there was never any pledge for a cessation of hostilities by either Moscow or Kyiv.
No, thank you so much, Thulasizwe. Thank you for having me. Good morning to you and to the listeners. Certainly, we've heard a lot from European leaders. We know Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, as well as his Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, have released statements. We know, of course, EU Commission President von der Leyen has also released a statement. But beyond statements, nothing much has been done, right? So they're going to summon these ambassadors for a dressing down. But beyond that, what else do they do? Because in many ways, this peace process, Thulasizwe, hinges on the Americans here. And hinges on Donald Trump even worse. And given the fact that they are dealing with a leader who makes policy on the whim, it is very difficult for European leaders to plan properly, to strategize properly. And in many ways, it's a realization, I think, among them, especially what, many are pinning as the group of 3, which is the United Kingdom, France, and Germany, that in many ways, Europe needs to stand alone, independent from the United States. The challenge is the vision ahead. What does that look like? What kind of security guarantees, for example, are given to the Ukrainians, and who fits that bill? And that's the challenge that we are faced with here, is that while all of these talks are happening and the Europeans are divided, Vladimir Putin and his government are standing on their position that there can be no peace deal, no conversation that is without Vladimir Putin at the table. And that's the challenge here, is you're dealing with a man who wants to negotiate from a position of strength. And I don't blame him. The problem is, how do the Europeans and the Americans create their own conditions of strength, that when these negotiations happen, that they too move from a place of strength? Because currently, between you and I, Putin has all the cards at this point.
And is there anything more then that they can bring as pressure, bring it to bear, other than words of condemnation and saying that these strikes, quote unquote, cannot remain without consequences? What more can they do other than what they've done all along? Sanctions, military support, and the likes.
This is the trick here, Thulasizwe, that people have got to understand about the global economy here, and why there's a frustration among the Indians and Modi's government about America's position on the Indians buying Russian oil, is because without that buying of that Russian oil, we know what happens then to the oil price, right? And so in many ways, Vladimir Putin moves from a place of strength, both because of the resource that he carries, both in natural gas, both in oil, and because of that, and the importance of these resources to the global economy, ensuring that the market is balanced and the price of oil remains balanced. It's important for countries like India, for places like EU, to continue to buy Russian oil, which in fact, Thulasizwe, they continue to do till this day, regardless of all the bluster around sanctions, around isolating the Russian war machine. in many ways, the integration between the Russian and the European economy is such that they are the primary funders of the very war that they are proposing to bring peace towards. And that's the challenge here. So they can bring forth sanctions. But I think what is needed here is they've got to do a reach out towards Russia's own partners. That means a conversation with the BRICS, a conversation with China, a conversation with India, in order to understand that this is not just a conflict. The days where the West are the leaders in global peace making is gone. And they need to realize that we are living in a multilateral universe now, and other countries have a role to play as well.
All right, I've got to thank you for those insights. That's Musa Mdunge, political analyst based at the University of Dundee.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Not even Hugo Bruce has a deal as good as yours, eh?
Oh.
Like when I was growing up, you would have to come to studio to be there every day to broadcast. Now, these days, people have privileges and they can broadcast from home the whole week and just come in on a Friday.
Wow.
Randomly.
Wow.
All right, take it away.
I missed you too, Thulas. All right. Listen, these players that have been missing in action are back with Coach Hugo Bruges unveiling his squad for next month's crucial 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers. South Africa will first take on Lesotho at the Free State Stadium on Friday, the 5th of September, before hosting Nigeria at the same venue 4 days later. Bruce says his players don't need extra motivation. The chance to reach the World Cup should be enough, and reiterated the future of Bafana with the young stars is bright.
You see players like Sebelebele, you see players like Shabalala, who were players who were on our lists before, but the progression they make. And then I think you have to give them the chance. And that's why those players are with us now. I know there are two important games, but if I shouldn't have the confidence in them, I shouldn't never selected them. Again, if that can succeed, then I think the future of Bafana looks very bright.
The Bafana team assembles for camp in Johannesburg on the 1st of September. Elsewhere, former UEFA President Michel Platini and ex-FIFA boss Sepp Blatter have been fully cleared of corruption charges, with a long-running case against the pair now closed. The Swiss Attorney General Office has confirmed it will not challenge a ruling from March, which acquitted both the men. Earlier this year, appeals in the court were cleared for the 70-year-old Platini and the 89-year-old Blatter for impropriety over payment of 44 million rand Blatter made to Platini. And finally, the men's 100 meters at the Diamond League final in Zurich delivered pure fireworks. Just by 200ths of a second, the American Christian Coleman took the win in 9.97 seconds, his third Diamond League crown, with South Africa's Akani Simbine right on his shoulder in 9.98 seconds. Jamaica's Akeem Blake was third in 9.99 seconds. Heartbreak for the young South African, Bayanda Walaza. He pulled out injured before the line and is facing a fitness race ahead of the World Championships in Tokyo. We'll wrap up. We'll be back, full force, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, doctors at Tygerberg Hospital in Cape Town have successfully performed South Africa's first living donor kidney removal using robotic surgery technology. The procedure involved a 45-year-old woman donating a kidney to a 24-year-old daughter. The South African National Taxi Council, Santaco in Gauteng, says taxi operations will only be shut down in parts of Ekurhuleni. This follows threats of a shutdown in the province yesterday. And a farm worker convicted of killing two friends at Echo Caves in Limpopo has started to serve 2 life terms. The High Court in Polokwane sentenced Christopher Mkiba yesterday. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yes, good morning. Fears of a Gauteng-wide taxi strike largely abating, although we are hearing there may be some difficulties in the Alex area. Not unusual. You normally get these little pockets which can be a little bit different to the sort of overall feel. So perhaps some disruption in Alex, but certainly widespread taxi disruptions across Ekurhuleni from Kempton Park up through Tembisa to Phosphorus through to Benoni. Hardly a taxi to be seen through the region. So if you are part of Ekurhuleni, just already set out and look for alternative transport. Staying on the east side of the province, the N17, the roadworks at coming through to Rondebolt Road still there, one lane, so another busy morning as you route in from that Brackpan area. The N1 running north is heading up into Deepcliff stationary vehicle this morning in the big volume, so up from Eldos for trying to get through to Uncle Charlie's. It's all heavily backlogged. Durban side today, a crash involving a truck at Paradise Valley. On your way out of Durban towards Pinetown, so watch for slowing traffic through there. And Cape Town, a big build-up on the N2, running in from the airport, a crash before Hospital Bend, just by Mowbray Main Road, so it's a really heavy queue already back to Robert Sobukwe. Behind that, the M5, backlogging from sort of almost Kenilworth area, problems getting off the M5 and into that N2 queue inbound. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
For the first update, let's turn to Ndawling Lechela. Good morning to you, Ndawling. Let's start stateside. Tell me about the U.S. economy and what it was doing in the second quarter.
Morning, Tula. So the U.S. economy showed resilience in the second quarter, growing at a faster than expected pace despite trade uncertainties. According to the Commerce Department's revised estimate, GDP rose at an annualized rate of 3.3% from April to June, exceeding the initial 3% estimate and the 3.1% forecast. Now, consumer spending, a big driver of economic growth, increased by 1.6%, contributing to the upward revision. The GDP data also reflected the impact of tariffs on trade, with imports falling close to 30% due to stockpiling before President Trump's Liberation Day announcement in April. Meanwhile, exports decreased by 1.3%. Now, despite these declines, net exports added nearly 5 percentage points to the second quarter GDP. Now, the U.S. economy has grown about 2.1% in the first half of the year, and this comes after a 0.5% contraction in the first quarter, largely due to the surge in imports. Moving forward, analysts expect the economy to maintain a slower growth pace, around 1.5%, as tariffs become more visible to consumers.
And I see that the job losses and job cuts continue at the sporting apparel giant Nike.
That's right, Silas. Nike is gearing up for another round of restructuring, which will involve job cuts, affecting a small portion of its corporate staff. Now, CEO Elliot Hill is driving this effort as part of a broader strategy to revitalize the company's growth. The exact number of impacted jobs is not yet clear, but is expected to be about 1% of the corporate workforce. This move is part of Hill's plan to refocus Nike on its core strengths in sports and culture. Now, the reorganization will also involve changes to job roles and responsibilities. Some employees will be taking on new positions and reporting to different managers. The restructuring effort is set to take place next month, and this, of course, not the first round of layoffs at Nike this year. In February, the company announced plans to cut about 1,500 jobs as part of a broader restructuring. Now, the latest job cuts are part of Hill's efforts to change how teams are structured within the firm.
And then how did we close yesterday, and what tone has been set in Asia this morning?
So another day of markets in positive territory, that is in the US, with stocks closing in the green overnight, getting a boost from that strong Q2 GDP print. The Nasdaq led the gains, up over 0.5%. Sentiment still downbeat here at home. In early trade yesterday, it did seem like the JSE was staging a rebound, but that didn't last long as stocks dipped back into the red, with the all-share shedding 0.14% at the close, fueled by the losses in the Resources 10 complex, down 1.5%. In other resources updates, oil slightly recovering, back above $67 per barrel. Traders, however, still eyeing risks associated with Russian oil. And then over in the currency front, the rand weaker this morning on the back of a stronger dollar. It's sitting at 17.73 to the greenback. Lastly, in Asia, stocks are mixed ahead of the release of key US inflation data later today. Now, that PCE print really important as it could impact the outlook for interest rates in the States.
All right, thank you for that. We'll talk to you again in the second hour. Dowling Lechela coming back for more insights just after 7:30 here on the Morning Brief.
Africa Update on SAFM.
For that, we turn to Sipho Mantula. Raz, good morning. Let's start in Harare. No matter how hard you try and keep the lid on succession, and many parties will attest to this, it's really difficult to keep the lid firmly on. And that's the situation as far as ZANU-PF is concerned. Oh, Sipho, I don't have you. Right. All right. I think let's take it from the top. Tell me about the succession battle that is raging on within ZANU-PF.
Refresh morning, Tulas and Jumbo Africa to your listeners. Tulas, you'll understand that the ZANU-PF is talking about the issue around the presidency also, but who will even succeed President Dambudzo Mnangagwa towards 2028. Others are saying he wants to go for the second term. And he had to call the meeting this week of the Politburo in the absence of Chiwenga. And in that meeting, he was just raising the issues to us to say that they need to look at the bad apples that might tear this party apart. And questioning them also about the use of leaders in their social media in terms of how they are dealing with their issues of who wants to be in the committee, who wants to succeed him. But that's where you will find that Chiwenga also, as you know, Tulas, has been very critical also about those tenderpreneurs who are in the camp of Mnangagwa, raising that he will deal with them as it is a threat to national security, meaning he's coming up with the anti-corruption card. And that's how we see the issue of the succession battle Tulas beginning in 2026 already between the president of the party, but as well as the president of the country. Hence, he had to call a meeting during the week, and others are saying why he did not wait for Chiwenga, who is in the state business in India.
Yeah, and I see that solar energy is quite the buzz and the trend in as far as diversifying energy sources on the continent. And for that, it seems we are looking east and specifically looking to China.
That is quite true, Tulas. I thought let's look at the energy security in the continent, Tulas, by saying where is Africa heading to? Almost from June last year to now, Tulas, 60% of the Chinese solar panels are having a rapid scale in the continent, according to the climate think tank Ember. And China is producing 80% of the world's solar panels, but Africa remains its main supplier. Out of 25 nations in Africa, Tulas, even if they have been given 100 megawatts of the solar capacity, South Africa is leading as one of the countries that it is buying the solar panels. But it's led by Nigeria and Egypt also. But you look at this, you find in West Africa also, Sierra Leone, it is also looking at the solar panels to us, because the issue of power generation in West Africa, it is a challenge. Nigeria, Sierra Leone, you go to north, you find Egypt. You come to the south, you find South Africa. So this raises a lot of issues to us in terms of developing or producing even our own solar panels in Africa when we have a better sun. For me, that we still have a better sun to us. There were many projects that were looked in the Northern Cape, you recall, you look at Eastern Cape, and it is very important to look at also the power of the water. You can look at the sun, but also the issue of the hydropower.
Yeah. So ZANU-PF may be mulling over who is to stand when the elections come, but no such issues for Tanzania's Chama Mapinduzi. Tell me about their approval of President Samia Suluhu.
Samia Suluhu, remember, he'll be first running for the presidency for the first time in 2025, Tulas, considering that she had to come into power through the passing of the fifth president of Tanzania, who was in office, John Pombe Joseph Magufuli, who died in 2021, Tulas, and now Samia Sulu, only yesterday, Tulas, confirming on the social media handles of the Twitter streets, saying that they have to ensure a victory for their party, and that God has permitted him to return and serve the citizens. We might talk about Samia Sulu Tulas, but there's a challenge also that the Electoral Commission of Tanzania has not allowed the second largest opposition party due to the issue of failure to can comply with the nomination procedure in the primaries. Now you have, yes, the sitting president being confirmed, but the opposition are still lamenting, and it appears that they'll be taking this matter to the courts, as we know that Tanzania decides in October, and the nomination for the presidential candidates were closed this week.
Yeah, and that it looks like that's going to be one of the sore points of this electoral cycle. Lastly, Sipho, before we get to your archive, the series you've been running of celebrating Pan-African women who are transforming the continent. Who do you have this morning?
Tulas, these are the women I've said they will refuse to wait their turn. We are looking from DRC to Namibia. Nema Namaduma. This is a woman who comes from South Kivu in the DRC. At the age of 2, was infected with polio, but she referred, where people say polio, it is the case, she refused to be boxed in that prejudice of tradition. She became that first woman to become the advisor even to the Minister of Gender and Family in South Kivu in 2012. This is one woman who comes from the war zone in the eastern DRC when you talk of North Kivu, South Kivu. The last woman to us, I thought, even if we wanted to go on the low rank files, the ordinary women, Namibia, Umamo Nandi, Nentembu, being at the early teens joining SWAPO, being imprisoned in 1973, going to exile in 1974. This is one of the great leaders who became one of the first female MPs in SWAPO. And for almost 3 decades, she went into being an acting president after the passing of the president in 2024. And only towards the end of the Tulas last year, that's where she overwhelmingly became a president of the party and as well as of the country. So these are 2 great women that I thought, as we are sealing the Women's Month, we looked towards the DRC and towards Namibia. It was more of a SADC tribute to the women of the continent.
Nice one, Sipho. So the last one then in your historical archive, 1994 was really a critical year in terms of South Africa and taking up its international legal personality. And something of importance happened on this day in 1994 in that regard. Tell me about it.
Tulas is 31 years when South Africa signed the SADC Treaty. Remember the SADC Treaty, Tulas, the SADC was formed in the late 80s, 1980s, almost 45 years of the SADC, and it was based on the cooperation of member states. The early SADC member states were Mozambique, Lesotho, Angola, and Zimbabwe. South Africa was not part of it, Tulas. It was sanctioned. It was not allowed to be part of the SADC due to the apartheid policy it was pushing. And that's how South Africa signed this treaty so that it becomes part of the regional continental bloc. We knew SADC as a frontline state, but it's interesting to us as South Africa will assume the chairpersonship of SADC again in 2026. As you will recall, this month also as Madagascar was taking over from Zimbabwe, South Africa, it was confirmed to be the one that will take over from Madagascar to lead once again the SADC regional body. It was not, it will not be for the first time to us. We have been in the SADC chairpersonship for several times during the presidency of the late President Nelson Mandela, the presidency of Thabo Mbeki, President Zuma, President Ramaphosa as well. But others have said in SADC Tulas, we've been the permanent members of the Troika, considering the challenges that we are seeing in the region. Asante sana Tulas, especially in the conversation, SFM observing the Women's Month.
Sipho, thank you for that and have yourself a fantastic weekend. That's Sipho Mandula with this morning's Africa Update.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah,
Started out as a passion, and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
This year, the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival presents 3 unforgettable days deep in the art and heart of jazz. From the 26th, 27th and 28th of September, Umu Sankare, Abapemu, Jasmia Horn, Silent Mo and the Noisemakers, Najbonk Trio, Michelle Ndingio-Cello, Valencini, Debbie Mutuba, and over 50 world-class acts will be ready to welcome you and yours to 4 magnificent stages of the Sandton Convention Center. Take me there. Buy your tickets at Ticketmaster now.
This week on FC Meets, Tisetso and Bandile sit down with Mamelodi Sundowns ladies dribbling wizard Lehlohonolo Mashego. Find out about her rise to the top of women's football on the African continent and what motivates her to aim even higher. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 30 August at 6 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus. FC Meets, football made for community by community. Rechencha Game, proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. The Gauteng-wide taxi strike largely, fears of that, largely allayed. Traffic, or taxis at least, running pretty much normally from Pretoria down through Joburg, across in towards the Soweto area. So Joburg, Pretoria, other regions seem to be okay, but it is acute in Ekurhuleni. No taxis through Benoni, through Vosloorus, up through Kempton Park, and all points in between. So Ekurhuleni, if you're that side, in all likelihood, your taxi isn't going to come along. The rest of the province, it looks pretty normal. Just onto the roads in terms of disruptions. N3 is pretty packed this morning. Elan's up to the Galuli's interchange. Breakdown at Dipcliff on that busy N1 North. So delays as you come through from the Eldos and Devland area this morning. N1 South, not bad. Coming out of Pretoria until you get a bottleneck between Samram and Olifantsfontein. We'll keep an eye on that. It looks like something may have happened there. Durban crash at Paradise Valley on the N3 outbound. Traffic seems to be moving past that okay. The N2 North is already jamming from the M7 up to Westwood Mall into the roadworks. No major breakdowns. Pietermaritzburg to Keyridge in either direction, which is good news. Cape Town crash on the N2 inbound at Mowbray Main Road. That's been cleared, but it's left a backlog on the N2 from Robert Sobukwe and on the M5 North to get in from as far back as the Kenilworth area. And just an update down in the Eastern Cape, Quebec, we had protesting this time yesterday morning. At this stage, both your Redwood Road, the M19, or the Red House Road, M19, and the Utenegg Road coming from Dispatch down to GQ, both of those routes seem to be open and flowing. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
10 minutes to 7. Credit to the reporting of the Sowetan on the story. And in fact, it's a story we tried to touch on yesterday, but had a bit of difficulty with the line. So we're returning to it because we thought it was an interesting and intriguing conversation that we wanted to bring to you in full. Johannesburg is running out of burial space, with only 5 of the city's 42 cemeteries still available for new burials. The mayor in the city, Dada Morero, is urging residents to consider alternatives such as cremation, mausoleums, and green burials. City officials say 37 cemeteries are already at capacity and now only do reburials, leaving just 3 crematoria and a handful of active sites. The mayor warns that embracing innovation is key to ensuring dignity in death for future generations. Let's speak to Sihau Ngubane, Professor Sihau Ngubane, who is an African languages professor in the School of the Arts at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Good morning to you, Prof, and thank you for your time. So we thought we'd come back to this so that we get the full benefit of the conversation. And at the heart of it was you telling us about your observations as far as the suspected or alleged reluctance among black South Africans to pursue alternative burial methods such as cremation and second and third burials within the same grave. What are your observations around that issue? Is there a reluctance? And if there is, what drives it?
Yes, thank you very much, Thulasizwe and your listeners. I think it is a fair statement to say African people, mainly in South Africa and other countries in Africa, are reluctant towards embracing this innovation. We need to strike a balance between tradition and innovation. We know that innovation needs to be sensitive to the African beliefs and their cultural heritage. I think the death itself is a rite of passage that is very important from human beings, and it ensures spiritual continuity. That is why burials is so important, because it marks the land, it connects the living with the dead. In African belief system, we believe in afterlife. Death is not the end, because after someone has departed, the families come together, and that creates a bond on its own. Even if there are tensions within the family, people will come back and mourn. And you know, Thulasizwe, we spend a lot of money on burials per se because of that importance of the rite of passage. So we know that burial sites function as a spiritual sanctuary for ongoing rituals, because after there are funeral, there are unveilings, offerings, so it doesn't end at that, because that there is afterlife.
Yeah. So if it's the spirit that is, of critical importance in that transition and connection with the ancestors and the likes, why do practices such as cremation then pose a bit of a challenge, as well as issues around burying 2 or 3 family members within one grave? What are some of the difficulties you foresee in terms of connecting with the afterlife in those circumstances?
I think multiple burials in one grave is encouraged, because people of the same family will be together, linking them with their ancestors. But there is a tendency that people will just dig an old grave and put a different person on that grave. But if it is people of the same family, then that is also acceptable. But I think what we need to do, as I said, let's balance tradition, because we are building the nation at this point in time after our past history, and we need to safeguard our tradition as much as we can. That is why we invest money on this research of the rituals and also the knowledge that goes with this rite of passage. But coming back to the lack of space, I think the municipality can source a space outside the city, because in rural areas, people are buried within their home yards. So I think home graves should be encouraged for those people who live outside the city. And this, I can't believe that there is no space outside. We can't force people to be buried in one cemetery. Yeah, because in the African tradition, people will be buried at home.
Yeah. All right. No, that's an interesting dynamic that you add there. Other alternative burial methods that could be explored. Thank you for your time this morning, Professor Sihawu Ngubane, African Languages Professor in the School of Arts at the University of KwaZulu-Natal.
Big stories of the day. #The Morning Brief.
Let's return to this story now. Frustration boiling over in Westbury and Coronationville in Johannesburg, where residents blocked roads in protest against what they call years of neglect by Joburg Water. Communities say their taps run dry for most of the day, while nearby informal settlements enjoy uninterrupted water and electricity. Residents accusing then the city and other government officials of discrimination, saying they are billed for services that they barely receive. Let's speak to Ferial Adams, Executive Manager of WaterCan, to unpack it all. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time as always. Let's start with the issues that are being raised by these communities in Westbury and Coronationville. What is your understanding of what's at the heart of the water difficulties that they face?
Good morning, Thulasizwe and all your listeners. So the issue is it's the infrastructure. It's the aging infrastructure in Westbury, in Coronationville, in Claremont. And they've had, for years now, I mean, in Claremont, we're dealing with people who have not had proper water for about 11 years. So the other issue is not just the pipes, it's not just the leaking pipes, etc. It's the actual reservoir that feeds those areas. Now there's Hursthill 1 and Hursthill 2. Hursthill 2 feeds Emerentia, Greenside, those areas. Hursthill 1 feeds Claremont, Coronationville, Westbury. But that reservoir is not working. It has a crack at the bottom, so they cannot fill the reservoir. The water has to be bypassed. So at any point that Joburg Water is having an issue at the pump station, right?
Yeah.
There's no water going to Coronation and Westbury. And that is what had happened in the last week, is that they had a problem with the pump that feeds, so the pump station feeds water to the Crosby pump. From there, it goes towards the reservoirs. And that pump was broken. So no water was flowing directly from the Aikenhof pump station to Hursthill 1. And normally, when, they should not be having this issue, because if the Aikenhof pump station is pumping water, they should get water all the time. But if you go to Coronation and Westbury, if you speak to people, for years, they'll have water that comes on at 1 o'clock in the morning, stops at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Is this an issue that is being attended to as far as you are aware?
No, it's not. The excuse we keep getting is that the reservoir is on bypass and it's actually aging infrastructure and it's the pressure and all of these things. But let me tell you, we've been working with the community of Claremont. We have an engineer who's helping us, WaterCan. And we've literally gone with a group of women, and we've been doing this for months, to try and figure out what exactly is going on. We figured out one problem, the valve was close to the flats that we work in. So it's still not solved because we still have issues to it's such a complex issue. We have to have at least 2 days where and also when we're trying to discover the issues, then there's no water, so you can't figure out what's going on. Sure. But we need Joburg Water to be with us on the ground for that.
All right.
And that's the same thing they need to do in Coronationville and Westbury.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for those insights, really helpful from the coalface, hearing from people who are involved in the situation and analyzing and assessing how it can be resolved. That's Dr. Ferial Adam, the Executive Manager of WaterCan. Brings us to 7 a.m. Let's go straight to N. Musa with the latest news.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, South Africa's first kidney robotic surgery, and Santaco clarifies taxi operations amid shutdown. Good morning. Doctors at Tygerberg Hospital in Cape Town have successfully performed South Africa's first living donor kidney removal using robotic surgery technology. The procedure involved a 45-year-old woman donating a kidney to a 24-year-old daughter. Dr. Danilo du Plessis carried out the surgery. Experts have described it as a milestone which makes organ donation safer and less invasive for living donors. The South African National Taxi Council, Santaco in Gauteng, says Taxi operations will only be shut down in parts of Ekurhuleni. This follows threats of a shutdown in the province yesterday after officials from the Transport Department impounded 17 taxis for offences including unroadworthy vehicles. Taxi operations in Benoni, Katlehong and Kempton Park were disrupted, leaving many commuters stranded. Santaco's Provincial Secretary Graham Fritz says the resumption of operations in Ekurhuleni will be communicated after a decision is made.
Commuters across the province can continue to rely on normal taxi operations. Regarding Ekurhuleni, the provincial and national leadership of the council is actively engaged in constructive dialogue aimed at resolving the outstanding matter. We are in ongoing dialogue with both the Gauteng provincial government and the National Transport Ministry to ensure these issues are resolved speedily and amicably. We remain committed to finding a sustainable solution through negotiations rather than disruption. An update on taxi services in the region will be communicated as soon as a decision has been reached.
A farm worker convicted of killing two friends at Echo Caves in Limpopo has started to serve 2 life terms. The High Court in Polokwane sentenced Christopher Mgiba yesterday. He was found guilty of killing Annika and Henny Klaasen and burning down their houses with the bodies inside in June 2023. A year before the incident, Mgiba had been fired for allegedly stealing a safe worth 10,000 rand. The sentences will run concurrently. The National Prosecuting Authority has welcomed the sentences. Parliament has called on the Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Solly Malatsi to expedite the finalisation and passing of the South African Broadcasting Corporation Bill. The bill has been stalled for months due to the minister's previous indication of withdrawing it. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies has argued that the move is unconstitutional. The committee's chairperson, Kusela Diko, has raised a concern that the public broadcaster might not be able to fully function beyond December this year.
You're running a multi-billion rand corporation and you're only receiving at this point in time about 193 million rand from the fiscus, which is nothing. It's a drop in the ocean when we expect the SABC to fulfill its public mandate. If you look around the world, most public broadcasters are funded from the fiscus. If you were to ask me how much, I think where government needs to start is at least with the infrastructure and the technology refresh of the SABC. That would be in the space of between 1.5 to 2.5 billion rands.
And finally, the confirmed death toll in yesterday's Russian drone and missile attack on the Ukrainian capital Kyiv has risen to 23. European leaders have strongly condemned the heavy Russian bombardment. The White House says President Donald Trump is unhappy but not surprised. Ivana Klempouch-Tsindzadze is a member of Ukraine's parliament.
This devastating, painful, brutal attack really just show the usual Russian tactics. Whenever they pretend that they are engaging in any negotiations, they are increasing the military attacks to threaten the people across the country. And I would really want to see a real reaction of the President of the United States of America with additional secondary sanctions.
Recapping the top story, doctors at Tygerberg Hospital in Cape Town have successfully performed South Africa's first living donor kidney removal using robotic surgery technology. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
Outsurance is simply the best at raising their own bar. Outsurance scored 9.99 on the Hello Peter Trust Index, a near 5-star rating on Google reviews, and have outperformed their personal best on the number of complaints referred to the Ombudsman per 1,000 claims. Switch to the insurer that keeps raising the bar. Call 0800 60,000 or visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines. The Bafana coach Hugo Bruges reveals his frank talks with Kulisa Mudau as they finalize their World Cup squad. And we also bring you action from the US Open. Australia's Alex de Minaur in a commanding form, as well as Felix Auger-Aliassime. Details just before 7:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Taxis seem to be largely running across the Gauteng province with the notable exception of Ekurhuleni. Taxis parked at ranks right across the Ekurhuleni region, so a very difficult morning for taxi commuters that side. The rest of Gauteng, particularly Joburg and surrounds and Pretoria Trani region, taxis seem to be operating as normal, which is good if you're in those parts, of course, of the province. A little bit busy on the N1 South for a Friday, coming through Midrand, just jamming up down towards Olifantsfontein. A run from Pretoria clear until you get into that sort of Olifantsfontein area. The Mike 1, Boyston through to Empire's heavy N3, Ilan's up to Galule, looking pretty slow as well. Pietermaritzburg to Durban on the commute, clear, no major problems this morning. N2 north and south, heavy through Spaghetti Junction and through Umgena Road. So big queues there, north from the M7, south from Umgena Road. It is a crash in on the southbound. In fact, it's a truck that's lost its load coming south, so you got that, and then the normal traffic having a look, plus backing up going north into Westwood Mall. Collision on the M4 at Glen Ashley, queuing traffic both ways on Durban's Ruth First this morning, heavy in and out of Umhlanga. And Cape Town, crash on the N2 inbound at Main Roads being cleared, has been replaced by a broken down vehicle at Hospital Bend. The N2 inbound, heavy from Robert Sabikwe into that. The M5 queues heavily from almost as far back as Ottery. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Mzansi, the Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots estimated at a total 85 million rand are your chance at an unforgettable Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 37 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 48 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Handa, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Big stories of the day. Hashtag the Morning Brief.
All right, 9 minutes after 7. Let's get straight into it. We're trying to cram in as much as possible within the time that we have in this half hour. Starting with this, the president, Cyril Ramaphosa, is said to be, quote-unquote, very infuriated over the delays in the start of the Madlanga Commission into the South African Police Service and other elements of the criminal justice system. He has delegated, as you heard a few days ago, the authority to Justice Minister Mamoloko Gupai to take swift disciplinary action, leading to the suspension of the department's Director General, Doc Mashabane, and its ICT head, Jabu Hlajwayo. Ramaphosa's office insists the commission's integrity remains intact, saying the setbacks were purely logistical and not linked to its credibility. So let's hear more then from Vincent Makwenya, the presidential spokesperson, who joins me now for that conversation. Vincent, good morning and thank you. What do we mean when we say the president was, quote-unquote, very infuriated? Was this delay something that was not within the realm of what he could have foreseen?
Good morning, Thulasizwe, and good morning to your listeners. Indeed, Thulasizwe, the delay was totally unnecessary in the view of the president. All the issues that contributed to this delay, the president feels, could have been resolved a lot sooner and a lot quicker. Hence, his displeasure as well as the instruction for stern action to be taken against those who are deemed responsible.
And much of the explanation has been put down to issues with the procurement for the ICT element of what needs to be procured to enable the commission to get on with the work. What else accounts for the delay from the report that the president received from the minister?
Well, Thulasizwe, there were some issues with respect to security, particularly the security of sensitive information, which is IT related, as you would imagine. Those were some of the contributors. We still needed to then ensure that we have secure space to store the information. But as we speak to the season, which is more encouraging, We are more than 99% ready to have the commission commence its work. The minister conducted a site inspection yesterday, and she's satisfied, as well as the president is satisfied that we can now proceed. The issue of the starting date will then have to be resolved in consultation with Justice Madanga.
The delegation of powers to take disciplinary action from the president to the minister is an extraordinary step, given the sensitivities around, tensions between the political head and the administrative head in many instances. Does the president feel satisfied that this move was justified, that it warranted taking what is an extraordinary step, really?
Well, Thulasizwe, the commission, or rather the instituting of this commission was in itself an extraordinary step to deal with extraordinary allegations that were made by Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi. And therefore, a matter of the sensitive nature and urgency with respect to our law enforcement agencies needed to be attended to quickly. When the president announced the instituting of the commission, the timelines were made clear to all stakeholders concerned, and therefore there was absolutely no justification for any delay whatsoever. Hence, the president was displeased when he was informed of it, and he ordered the subsequent disciplinary measures.
Yeah. And what do you say then to those that say this commission is off to the worst possible start, given, that delay, but also some of the words exchanged, the Madanga Commission making it clear that they place the blame for this delay squarely at the doorstep of the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. And then the minister also having some words to say that she felt that the commission could have been a bit more, understanding of her predicament and not really came out with the statement that they did. What do you say to those that say this is a bad sign right at the start, and perhaps the credibility of the commission is likely to be compromised?
No, three things quickly there, Thulasizwe. One, the minister was involved day in and day out, along with other departmental officials, in ensuring that the commission is assisted and that these blockages are resolved. So the commission was not in isolation or isolated in their frustration. That's number one. Number two, we need to understand and appreciate that the issues are logistical and infrastructure, or rather IT infrastructure related. Lastly, Thulasizwe, we need to further appreciate that the commission had already started with some of its work. They've been receiving some of the evidence already. So it's not as if absolutely nothing has not happened. Therefore, substantively, the work of the commission is not going to be compromised in any shape or form, and these delays will not impact the substance of the work of the commission. The president has appointed one of the best jurists that this country has ever produced. He's got a formidable team. Credibility of the work of the commission cannot be questioned.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for your time. That's Vincent Makwenya, presidential spokesperson.
Thulasizwe Simelane on SAFM.
So let's change tack now. And the country's online influencers have been given a stern warning. The taxman is watching and SARS wants its share. Tax experts say too many content creators are unaware that freebies, sponsorships, and brand deals count as taxable income. Even non-cash perks like free meals, gadgets, or luxury trips must be declared, or influencers risk stiff penalties. SARS says it is upgrading its systems using AI and data from brands to track undeclared income, making it harder for digital creators to slip through the cracks. Let's speak to Keith Engel, who is CEO of the South African Institute of Taxation. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. So what has shifted? I know that SARS has ambitious targets in terms of what they would want to raise by way of revenue, some money being allocated in the budget to help them in terms of resourcing and capacity to collect. Is that part of that work, the concentration on the digital economy?
Yeah, I think that you can see the commissioner believes that that's where his answers lie in the digital economy, because you've got a perfect record tracing of things. So this is part of that. I think also the issue about influencers is part of a strategy to go after high-profile people, because if you're high-profile, that's a good way for everybody to see that SARS is effective. So it's really a two-part strategy.
So what are the main points that people need to know? A lot of people are seeking to quote unquote monetize content that they create, and I see it all the time on the social media timelines. What are the pitfalls? What are the regulations? What regulates that space in the form of, say, you earning cash through platforms such as Meta, but also the other perks that will then come through sponsorships and the likes?
Well, the thing is, what they can see, and they've been looking at this for a while, the first thing they did is, a lot of people who have wealth, they seem to want to display it on the social media, in the LinkedIn or the Twitter or the Facebook. So one thing they've already caught out is people, being proudly showing their expensive cars or their expensive houses. It's a way of doing a lifestyle audit. So here you are, you're poor, and all of a sudden you pop up. So one thing they can do on the data is taking a look on the internet and seeing people who are flashing expensive items. They pick that up and they say, okay, well, let's take a look at this person's return. And then they'll see a return that's not generating very much money, and that's one way to check it. This is sort of similar to that. If you can take a look and you'll see somebody who's a media influencer and they're on the internet a lot selling goods, well, they can assume that that person is making some money. They can either be getting cash or they can be getting benefits. I think the one that catches people by surprise more is the benefits. But again, the data can pick up what's being said online, and then they can match it with the return.
And how useful are tools such as AI in all of this and data analytics? Because I suppose in one way or another, the tax authorities are always watching what each and every one of us earns, either by cash or by way of benefits. But with this being an activity that happens in the digital space, how useful are the new tools such as AI and data analytics?
Yeah, I think the AI helps a lot in the sense that right now, if you're going to go looking for this kind of thing, even though you know what you're looking for, if it's like it's researching on Google. If you research on Google and you're looking for information, you're going to need an army of people to look at this, and it becomes sort of a needle in the haystack because you're looking for a ton of data. So what's beautiful about AI is if you're searching for certain things where you're seeing who's sponsor or, are they making money or, this picture shows that. AI can do this automatically without having that physical search. So that can be an effective way to do it depending on how well they program the AI.
All right, let's leave it there. Thank you for sharing those insights, Keith Engel, who is CEO of the South African Institute of Taxation. So there you have it. You've been warned. Do flourish, monetize your flourishment, but take care of the taxman. Take care of Edward Kisweta and his people.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Get ready, South Africa! 12,000 athletes from every corner of the country will hit the ground running in the 5th edition of the Hollywood Bets Durban 10 Kilometer. A thrilling road race starting and finishing at Hollywood Bets Kingsmead Stadium. It's more than a race. It's all about community, good vibes, and rising to the challenge. Catch the action live on Saturday 30th of August at 7 a.m. on SABC2, SABC Plus, and across SABC radio stations. Hashtag Let's Run and feel the energy. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Catch SAFM live on Thursday, 18 September at the TBCSA Tourism Leadership Conference. Conversations shaping the future of tourism. Brought to you by the TBCSA, the leading voice of tourism in South Africa.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on The Morning Brief.
21 minutes after 7. Let's give you an update on a story that we've been tracking all morning. We've been talking about the confusion about whether or not there is a Gauteng-wide taxi strike that involves members of Santaco. Certainly, based on the comments yesterday of the regional chairperson of Santaco in Ekurhuleni, there were expectations that there would be a province-wide disruption of taxi services. But later on, we heard from the Gauteng leadership of Santaco saying that there is no such. The issue is confined to one pocket, one corner of the province being a part of Ekurhuleni. Well, the SABC News reporter who's been tracking that quite well and extensively is Mbalenhle Mthethwa. She joins us now live from Germiston in Ekurhuleni. Good morning to you, Mbalenhle. You've been tracking the story and you are the one who's been talking to the leadership of Santaco in that region. What's the picture on the ground this morning as far as taxi services are concerned in Gauteng, but specifically in Ekurhuleni?
Well, I am in Germiston at the taxi rank where scores of people and commuters have been left stranded, many of whom are on their way to work, but unfortunately will not be able to report for duty given that there are no taxis. One commuter that we just spoke to said she fears for her life because if she were to get the services of an e-hailing service provider, they are worried that the taxi marshals would then fight with the e-hailing driver and they would end up getting caught in the crossfire. It's really a difficult situation for many of these commuters. Some of them have said that they have tried to use the railway line and use the Prasa services. Unfortunately, they said that the queues there are unbearably long and they cannot wait that long, and they are also fearful for their own safety given that there is a chance that they could get mugged. These are the sentiments of many commuters, even those we spoke to yesterday. They said they were too afraid to use the services of the Prasa railway lines or the trains that are provided by Prasa because of the concerns of safety if they do use those services. So it's really unfortunate, but the roads are full of people who are waiting for the taxis to resume or maybe for some alternative transportation to be made available to them. Another commuter has said that they are hoping that the boss will send a van or a vehicle out to come and collect them because they got onto a taxi in the early hours of this morning thinking that they would be able to catch a connecting taxi to their place of work, but unfortunately that did not happen. So it's a really sad situation right now.
So at the heart of it then, Mbalenhle, it's the issues around the impounding of taxis. Tell me a bit more about that grievance that the regional structure of Santaco has. That's I believe, well, at least from the comments of the provincial leadership, it seems to be confined to that area, is it?
Well, certainly. The issue is that the regional leadership here in Ekurhuleni believes that the law enforcement officials or traffic enforcement officials are targeting minibus taxi drivers and are taking their vehicles for no reason at all. They are demanding operating permits, which the chairperson says are no longer being issued by the department or the government department. And unfortunately, these vehicles have been impounded, and they claim that 60 vehicles are impounded on a daily basis. However, the MEC late last night, when we spoke to her, she explained to the SABC that they have only a record of 17 vehicles that have been impounded and not the 60, disputing the number and also calling on the chairperson to desist from calling on other operators to join in on this protest action and really just calling on calm in this process. There are indications that there will be engaging with the individuals here and the leadership of Ekurhuleni in order to at least find a solution. But it would seem as though the leadership has made it clear that they do not want to speak to the provincial or regional authorities, but they prefer to speak to the minister himself. At this point, to also iron out all of those details. There is an admission that there is a permit backlog. However, the MEC explained that there are some contingency measures that have been put in place. And these contingency measures are that if an operator is able to provide a receipt indicating that they have at least paid or made an application for an operating of a license or permit, then their vehicles will be spared. But she is adamant that those 17 vehicles they have in their possession are vehicles that are unroadworthy and should not be on the road and do not possess any receipts or permits.
All right, let's leave it there for this morning. Mbalenhle Mthethwa, SABC News reporter, live on the ground for you in Germiston. Look out for more of her reporting on that story throughout the day.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning to...
What was
good
that?
morning to you.
Yes, good morning.
Hugo Bruce talks to Khuliso Modau, mano a mano.
Yeah. Hey, this is Dr. Phil in the making.
Let's talk.
Coach Hugo Bruges becoming more than counsellor than coach. But let's hope that his candid chat with Modau urging the Sundowns defender to return to training and resolve his club dispute. Modau has been pushing for a transfer and he was left out of the 23-man squad for next month's FIFA World Cup qualifiers.
I got the agreement of the coach of Sundowns that I could have a meeting with Khuliso. So I had a meeting with Khuliso and I told him that he was right in some things, but that he was not right in other things. Like, for example, not going to training. You don't solve a problem with not going to training, even there is a disagreement between you and the club. This is an obligation of a player. If you don't play, there's something else. You can tell, okay, I don't play till the problem is solved, but you have to go to training. So I think Khuliso is training now again, and I really hope that as soon as possible that problem is solved, because Khuliso is the best right back of this country and one of the best right backs in Africa.
That's Bafana coach Hugo Bruges on the morning brief. Now, the men's 100 metres at the Diamond League final in Zurich delivered fireworks last night, decided by just 0.02 of a second. The American Christian Coleman taking the win in 9.97 seconds, his third Diamond League crown. South Africa's Akani Simbine right on his shoulder in 9.98 seconds. Jamaica's Akeem Blake was third in 9.99 seconds. On to cycling, the Australian Jay Vine launched a solo attack from a breakaway group in the final 20 kilometres to win the stage 6 of the Vuelta a España, with Torsten Terrin of Norway taking second place and the overall lead. At the US Open tennis action, Australia's Alex de Minaur was in commanding form, sweeping aside Japan's Shintaro Mochizuki in straight sets. And one of the shocks of the day came on the grandstand court, where Germany's Daniel Altmaier knocked out the 26-seed Stefano Tsitsipas in a dramatic 5-setter, and Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime holding his nerve in 3 sets against Roman Safiullin, and world number 3 Alexander Zverev easing into the next round with a straight sets win over Britain's James Fernley. And finally, Naomi Osaka weighing in on the incident between Yelena Ostapenko and Taylor Townsend. Townsend and Ostapenko got into a face-to-face argument, and that was when Townsend won their second round match. Townsend, an American who's ranked number 1 in doubles, said Ostapenko, a Latvian who won the 2017 French Open, told her she had no class and no education. Here's Naomi Osaka.
Obviously, it's one of the worst things that you can say to a black tennis player in a majority white sport. And granted, I know Taylor and I know how hard she's worked and I know how smart she is. So she's the furthest thing from uneducated or anything like that. But if you're like genuinely asking me about the history of Ostapenko, I don't think that's the craziest thing she said. I think it's ill timing and the worst person you could have ever said it to.
We'll rally back with more sport. That's at the top of the hour. For the morning brief, I'm Zai Khan.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, Nyanga residents and community activists in Cape Town will today march to Parliament to demand justice for 25-year-old Sinande Chazabane. She was raped and murdered in her home in June, just days after seeking legal protection from her partner. Doctors at Tygerberg Hospital in Cape Town have successfully performed South Africa's first living donor kidney removal using robotic surgery technology. The procedure involved a 45-year-old woman donating a kidney to a 24-year-old daughter. And Parliament has called on the Communications and Digital Technologies Minister, Solly Malatsi, to expedite the finalisation and passing of the South African Broadcasting Corporation Bill. The bill has been stalled for months due to the Minister's previous indication of withdrawing it. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Top story, the taxi strike across the Ekurhuleni region. Any fears that it may have spread this morning through other parts of Gauteng largely can be ignored. Taxis operating normally through Soweto, coming in from Crossmere and Ennerdale, through Cosmo City. Widespread taxi action across the Pretoria region, so that looks normal as well. It really is sort of Tembisa through Kempton Park, down through Benoni, Phosphorus, Sprayview. That's the area, Ekurhuleni side, where there's hardly a taxi, and the municipal bus service has been suspended as well over fears, safety fears that can often be associated with these taxi strikes. So it is a tough one for the motoring or the commuting public, I should say, in the Ekurhuleni region. The N17 under a bit more pressure than normal, coming in from Brackpound Springs. The roadworks down to Rondebolt Road, N17 Joburg bound, holding you up, and then shortly thereafter there's a crash before Osborne Road, so you're back into a secondary queuing situation. If you use the Nasrec Road coming up from FNB, crash at Main Reef Road, so that's fairly heavy, and that high collision zone, which is the N14 at Bruckfontein interchange, a crash there causing delays again on your way to Pretoria. Durban, a collision on the Ruthfirst Highway at Glen Ashley. North and southbound traffic being held up between Blue Lagoon and Umhlanga. It is heavy. The M4 inbound queuing up through Rossborough up towards Umbilo as well. That's an unusual backlog of traffic. And Cape Town today, R300 fairly busy for a Friday, queuing up from Funerivic Road up towards the N1 highway. Looks like maybe an issue around the Old Paarl Road. And the M5, worth a mention, it is queuing from Ottery all the way up to a very busy N2. And Baden-Powell under some pressure this morning, queues between Jafta Masemola and the N2 bridge. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
All right, good morning once again in Dowling. Let's start in telecoms. They are a massive deal, cleared by competition authorities after some contention. Now they are saying that there will be the Mureki, the Mureki of the
And
industry.
I'm happy that there are also a Mureki in my home province.
Yes.
So, I support fully.
You support the Mureki tendencies. Tell me about them and what they're planning to spend in as far as infrastructure investment is concerned.
So the telecoms group is doubling down on infrastructure investments, setting aside over 400 million rands in its central region, which includes the Free State and Northern Cape. These funds will be used to build new sites, upgrade fiber infrastructure, and boost power backup systems to ensure network availability during power cuts and vandalism incidents. Specifically, 150 million rands will be allocated to new sites and radio infrastructure, while 210 million rands will be spent on fiber upgrades. Now, Vodacom is also prioritizing the rollout of 4G and 5G sites, leveraging licensed spectrum to increase coverage and capacity. The group's added that its goal is to provide good connectivity services, particularly in underserved areas, and support a growing demand for data services. The investment is part of the company's broader strategy to build an inclusive digital society and provide reliable network access in the country.
And then in education, in the education provision, private education
Yes.
sector, tell me about the growing student base and what it's doing for Stadio.
So Stadio, the last of the listed private education players out with numbers, delivering double-digit growth in revenue and earnings. This comes as the group reported strong demand for its tertiary programs. This is evident in the 9% uptick in student numbers to 51,197. The strong showing has given the owner of tertiary institutions like AFDA confidence in achieving its target of 56,000 students by the end of next year, further supporting its longer-term ambitions of reaching 80,000 students by 2030. Now, to further account for the growing pool of students, Stadio invested 120 million rands in capital expenditure for curriculum development and the construction of its new Durbanville campus, which is on track to open next year. Now, that campus will cater to 1,000 on-site students and additionally remote learners, with a total estimated spend of 325 million rands for phase 1 and phase 2 of that campus. Now, the group says the new campus positions it for even further growth.
Lastly, Ntauling, how are we looking on the markets?
Kicking things off in Asia, stocks are mixed this morning. There seems to be a wait-and-see approach ahead of the US PCE print, but leading the gains on that front is the Hong Kong Hang Seng, up 0.72%, followed by China's Shanghai Index, up over 0.33%. Over in the States, futures are in the red, reversing yesterday's gains. Traders on that front also eyeing inflation figures for further clues on the way forward when it comes to monetary policy. And then coming back home, markets downbeat with the all share losing 0.14%. The local unit also taking a knock this morning as the dollar makes significant gains. The rand is at 17.72 to the dollar. And then looking at commodities, oil remaining steady, trading just above $67 per barrel today.
That's the morning briefs, Moreki. That is the money spender. Darling Lichella. She'll be back with one more update for you, and that's coming up just after 8:30.
After a 1-0 loss against Arsenal in the opening match of the new season, the Red Devils are searching for a win at Old Trafford.
Mason Mount! Oh, what a finish from Mason Mount! Kills it home 2-1.
However, the Clarets are gunning for a crucial 3 points away from home.
Just from Brownell! We're all square! What a goal from Burnley!
This is the Premier League. Experience Manchester United versus Burnley FC on Saturday 30 August at 3:30 p.m. Live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game!
Spa brings you 3 days of even more from 29 to 31 August. Get 200-gram Nescafe Classic or 230-gram refill for $99.99. Save 50 Rand. Or 2-liter liquid fruit, any 2 for 80. Save 50 Rand. It's 3 days of even more. 29 to 31 August, only at Spa. While stocks last.
Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair is here. It's time to treat yourself at your fabulous fragrance destination. Big date coming up? Find a fragrance that makes it unforgettable. Crushing it in the boardroom. Make an impression before you even speak. From fresh and floral to bold and unforgettable, get your perfect fragrance match at Dis-Chem's Beauty Fair. Don't miss out. Deals end 14 September.
Have you discovered the TV license WhatsApp yet? We see you binging reruns, living for the drama, loving the SABC Plus sports replays. Now, paying your TV license fits the vibe. Simply say hi on WhatsApp on 077 6069 060. Get your balance, make a payment, or set up a debit order, all in one chat. No queues, no please hold, just convenience that feels like it should have been here all along. Because every screen in South Africa is a stage, and yours is lit. So why wait? Send hi on WhatsApp to 077 6069 060 and get your TV license sorted today. Hashtag your screen, your story.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, lots of reflections on the stories that we've covered this morning. Let me take one or two that have to do with the issue of cremation as an alternative burial form, which is being encouraged in the city of Joburg. One of the alternatives being encouraged in the city of Joburg. Then I'll take another one that has to do with sewerage, and I'm not really sure what that is about, but I can only imagine probably has to do with some service delivery issue somewhere in one of our cities.
This is Tabiso in Bloemfontein. In order to solve the burial spaces, the only option is reburial. Maybe we should dig more than 6 feet so that we can at least bury 3 people on one grave. Maybe family members, the 3 of them will be buried in that same grave. I think we can at least work, because there are a lot of graves here. We can reuse them.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on. That's one of the options that is being pushed and punted. And in fact, despite the reluctance that we've been reporting, it's actually already happening in cities like Joburg. The last figures that were quoted, for example, where they placed the number at more than 4,000 second burials that had already happened in some of the cemeteries in and around Joburg. And I'm pretty sure that that number has since grown, because it is a number from a few years ago. So it is something that is already being practiced.
Good morning, Thulas. Look, with regards to the shortage of graveyards in Gauteng, I want to contribute. But listen, man, I can't do what happened, because Ramaphosa must remember dug 1 million graves during COVID. Where are those graves, man? Huh? What happened to those graves? Because we can make use of those graves, man. Thulas. Romeo Machila from Potchefstroom.
Romeo Ustud, man. I remember that story, but I recall it facing serious pushback as being misinformation, that there were no million graves that had been dug. We can go back into it. I don't remember the exact details, but I do remember that contention being challenged, that no, there were no 1 million graves that were dug. But you're not the only one. I think I did see someone else. In fact, let me just take the opportunity then to actually read that message. In fact, this person, short message, says, are there 1 million COVID graves full too? That person asking that question. But as I say, that was a contention that was challenged when it was made all those years ago. Let me take this voice note before I go to the calls. It has to do with sewerage, and I wonder what that is all about.
Morning. We hear them, yes, with their cries from their community. Tonight, Mayor went and KZN. We've been complaining about the smell of the sewage day and night. It's been years and years. The smell is really horrible. It's actually making people sick. If you find out from the people that have been around for years, they're just informing you that, you know what, it's been like this for years. You just have to get used to it. How can you get used to the pool? Huh?
Yeah, that's really one of the biggest crises that we face in as far as the water situation is concerned. The wastewater treatment processes and the amount of raw sewage that is being dumped into some of our water and our river systems. We've spoken to countless experts on that say the path to resolving our water issues also includes addressing the wastewater treatment crisis that we face in the country. And you wonder, how long are we going to analyze these issues? Paralysis by analysis. At what point do we start implementing what we already know, what the problem is? Let me go to the calls. Janusz in Cape Town, good morning to you. Please go ahead.
Hi, Thulas. Good morning. I would like to talk about the DA in Cape Town robbing us, overcharging our rates. You know, it's just ridiculous. I don't know what happened there in Joburg where you stay, but what's coming here, they overcharge us a lot. Now, they added even 80 rand for the charge from the houses, each house. for the cleaning of the streets. They add from 250 to 350 for the charges of the having the prepaid meter. So it's ridiculous, you know. Soon they're going to charge us for the consumption of the air and the sun. It's ridiculous. So and I actually know there's a lot of problems. Like for instance, transport in the southern area. When I'm staying in Koniki and all this, you know, far south they call it, is different than other section like in Greenpoint and Sea Point. They've got luxury buses, small buses, but very nice, coming every 5 to 10 minutes. Here you've got the old junky bus, which is, you know, very often broken and going to the depot. So DA telling us that they doing better. They do. For us,
yeah, so all of these things that they're talking about in the wake of the budget processes this year to try and ensure that they were hearing the cries of communities, are you saying that you're not feeling that? For example, this levy to clean the streets, has that simply been increased or has that always been
Yes.
there?
No, it's never been there. It's never been there. Now it's there. Now increase for the meter from 250, which shouldn't be, to 340, you know. For the as an electrical contractor, they charging 30,000 for 5 meters of providing the cable to the house. 30,000, you know, and you have to pay. What you can do.
All right. Janusz, thank you for that. That's an interesting take there coming out of Cape Town. That has to do with levies, the city levies, the various levies. The budget in the city has been a topic of much debate as it relates to municipal rates in particular. Of course, we've spoken to the mayor a couple of weeks ago and gotten their perspectives as well. Eunice, good morning to you. You want to talk about the sport that many call soccer, but I prefer football. What about it? Good morning.
Yeah, hi there, Thulasizwe. You know, last week you spoke about on the Royal AM saga, and you said, you know, reported that the courts have asked the Royal AM to pay back 27 million to the Msunduzi Council, which they got for sponsorship, right? Now, as you recall, Royal AM was sequestrated, having owed SARS something like 40 million. And you know, Sean Mkhize's cars were auctioned off, and I think the auction raised about 8.5 million only. So there's a deficit there of about 31 or 32 million. And plus this other amount here. Now, what I can't understand is, you know, I've just been reading that Sean Mkhize has gone and bought a big stake in Mbabane Highlanders. So now, how does that all tally up? And if you can recall, Thulasizwe, last year sometime I raised the same issue with you when it was Maritzburg United then who were playing in the Motepe League. And the mayor at that time, Sunduzi, refused Maritzburg to play there at the Harry Gwala Stadium. There now, then they relocated to Durban, got promoted, now operating as Durban City. Now, clearly, sometimes when these politicians sit there and make decisions, it's to the detriment of the supporters. I was reading an article, and it said, you know, when the Friday nights when Maritzburg used to play at Harry Gwala, the taxi drivers used to make extra money. I mean, paying people to and from the stadium. The vendors who were there selling their wares, whether it was food or whatever, and all these people were crying out that they can't make a living because of the spin-offs of the Friday night matches there. So I think what you ought to do is bring in the mayor and ask him. He made this rash.
Eunice, you keep fading, Eunice. I don't know what you're doing with your phone, the way you're holding it, but I think we've gotten the point that you are making, the concerns that you raise about such issues as sponsorships, as highlighted by the issues of Royal AM and the reported purchase of a stake, and I don't really know what the details are, of a stake by Mamkhize, Sean Mkhize, in Eswatini. I did see those reports, and in fact, I saw a video of her being in Eswatini. How does that relate to the processes involving Royal AM in South Africa, the tax debt and the likes? It's fascinating. It's a fascinating conversation, and I think we should take up that conversation and take it forward, including decisions about where a team will play its home games and what the implications are for the local economy, as well as where there are sponsorships. How does that even work? How does a city decide that we're going to sponsor this football team, and how much are we going to channel towards sponsoring and what processes are followed. Fascinating discussion. Thank you for that, Eunice.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Just an update on the taxi strike. These things do become a little bit clearer with the passing of time. And what it seems to be this morning is that taxi services are badly disrupted through Benoni, Katlehong, Tembisa, Kempton Park, Germiston. Those parts of Ekurhuleni seem to be without taxis completely. Other parts of Ekurhuleni region have normal taxi services operating. So it's not sort of widespread across the city of Ekurhuleni. It is in parts, but if you need to get a taxi to or from Germiston, Kempton Park, Tembisa, Katlehong, Benoni, it is going to be quite difficult this morning. Otherwise, if you're coming out of Ekurhuleni, there is noticeably more traffic on the roads this morning. It is quite a busy Friday, understandably. The municipal bus service is suspended and taxis not running, so there's bigger vehicular traffic. Two problems coming in on the N17. You've got the roadworks between Brackpan and Rondebolt Road, and shortly after you emerge out of that, you're into a crash delay going down to Osborne Road. Collision coming out of Benoni on the N12 by Atlas Road. That's a heavy queue back as far as Snake Road. A collision on Pretoria's N1 South this morning by Garsfontein. In fact, just before Rigel. That's quite heavy. All lanes are open, but Friday big volumes coming down there, jamming things up. Durban, a collision on the M4 at Glen Ashley. Now, it was causing a backlog both ways. It still is, in fact. And just an update here. There are two crash scenes. So there's a crash before the Durban North exit going north, and then continuing north, a crash up by Glen Ashley. So two queues on your way to Umhlanga and one quite heavy queue coming out of Umhlanga down towards Virginia Airport. The M4 inbound, a breakdown before Victoria Embankment, so that's quite heavy. And Cape Town, noticeably lighter volumes this morning, being a Friday, although the N2 inbound from Langa to Hospital Bend is quite busy. Behind that, the M5 sitting as far back as around Racecourse Road as you come through Kenilworth up towards that N2. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Mzansi, the Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots estimated at a total 85 million rand are your chance at an unforgettable Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 37 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 48 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Handa, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
The Berea and the Atlas Lions are chasing gold. They both want to dance for victory in a do-or-die continental spectacle. This is the final of the Total Energies African Nations Championship 2024. Madagascar versus Morocco this Saturday, 30 August at 5 p.m. Live everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane.
Right, it's coming up to 5 minutes to 8. The country's legal fraternity is grappling with a new frontier, the rise of artificial intelligence and its impact on intellectual property and copyright law. Questions are mounting over whether works created with minimal human input qualify for protection under the Copyright Act. Lawyers warn that while AI brings innovation, it also exposes creators to risks of copyright infringement if AI outputs resemble existing works. Let's speak to Alude Xuba, who is founder and principal attorney at Xuba Attorneys. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. It's a fascinating area of law. Earlier on, I was talking about those videos with cute babies speaking using voices of grown-ups in the main political leaders and other personalities resembling those personalities. But what is the law? What does the framework look like governing this particular area? Can those videos, for example, be copyrighted, and are they intellectual property that can be protected and monetized and the likes?
Good morning, Thulas. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's got a very interesting topic and a very interesting time that we find ourselves in. So from a copyright perspective, there's a big debate about that. Remember, with the copyright, there has to be a human invention, and there has to be for ownership to vest. Now the question becomes, who owns that, or who invented that? Is it the system, or is it a human being? Now, if it's a system, our copyright laws don't really recognize that as the inventor or the owner of that. But if it's a human being, of course, then we'll say it is that person who did that. So there's that gap in our laws. There's no certainty around that, and it's not only in South Africa. It's right in the United Kingdom and America. Yeah.
So is the difficulty the need and necessity of human intervention in the invention of the work, in the creation of the work? Is that a requirement in our law that for it to be recognized as intellectual property, it needs to have been invented by or made by a human being? Whereas these new creations pose that challenge that you can simply put in prompts and AI will do the rest.
Typically, IP laws attribute invention to human creators. However, AI systems and tools and the ability to, on their own, generate invention or inventive solutions creates this problem. But the long and short of it, generally, typically, that's what is required. There has to be a human element. That's what copyright laws require.
That's on the one side of things, Alute. But there's the other element has to do with the willy-nilly, repurposing of content, say video content from traditional media sources, and then that being repurposed in the digital space. What challenges does that pose?
Well, again, it still goes back to, if I hear your question correct, that is, it still goes back to the point, who is the person who came up with that? Initially, the first one, when we repurpose, it means it was something else that was done, but who came up with that? And who is the owner of that? Now, that's what the copyright laws will require. Who is the owner? Who did it? Who created it? Who is the inventor? Now, if we use systems or tools that help us to do that, it becomes very hard to say who is the owner, unless we say, well, this system that was used to create or do this particular thing belongs to A, B, and C. Then they're able to say this is the owner or this is where the ownership vests.
And is the conversation around how to better legislate and regulate the space, is that happening? Because I'm aware, and I don't know if you recall, the case involving a technology known as DABUS, which is the device for the autonomous bootstrapping of unified sentience, that had to do with AI inventorship, South Africa being the first country in the world to recognize AI inventorship. I imagine that based on that, at that point it looked like we were going to lead the conversation. Is that conversation happening at a legislative and regulatory level?
No, not as far as I know, and I think that's what we are trying to establish. That's what we're trying to lead. But there's not been much of a regulatory movement. I think so far that we have is that the National Artificial Intelligence Framework, which is a precursor to the policy of National Artificial Intelligence Policy. But from a regulatory perspective, there's not been any significant moves. From a common law perspective, there's not been much that has been happening. A lot of movements have been coming from industry, from bodies who are trying to build up and come up with or initiate different dialogues or conversations around this. But it would be very interesting, of course, to really have a firm policy stance on this, which will lead to regulatory certainty. As now we can see it, there's becoming a more increased need for this conversation to happen. AI is really around. It is happening. It's taking center stage. It's now part of our lives. We can't run away from that.
All right.
Yeah.
No, thank you for your input and thank you for your insights there. That's Alute Xuba, who is the founder and principal attorney at Xuba Attorneys. Did you know that we were the first country to actually recognize AI inventorship? That was in 2021, as I was saying. The technology is called DABUS, and the person behind it had taken it to various patent offices around the world, just testing and checking if, almost flying kite to see if it would happen. And guess what? The South African Patent Office through the DTI said yes, to many people's surprise. But what has happened since then? And many people in the space actually feel perhaps there was a bit of an error in that decision. But nevertheless, let's leave that there for now and go straight to Ann Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Time to switch and save. Call 08600 60,000 today.
In our top stories, a march to Parliament over brutal killing of Zinande, and Parliament's Communications Committee calls on the Minister to pass SABC bill. Good morning. Nyanga residents and community activists in Cape Town will today march to Parliament to demand justice for 25-year-old Zinande Chazebane. She was raped and murdered in her home in June, just days after seeking legal protection from her partner. Authorities have yet to make an arrest. Zukum Dai is the convener of the Justice for Zinande initiative.
It is actually the reason we are taking these demands to Parliament, because she has done everything that society tells women to do. She filed for protection order. She did go to the court on the 17th of June, and yet she was failed by the system, which is why we are taking this to the corridors of power, so that as her voice was silenced, we dare not stay silent and continue to raise awareness, not only around her name, but around the brutality with which women are faced with throughout our country.
Experts at the Northwest University have raised concern about the use of digital platforms to perpetrate gender-based violence. They say emerging threats on the platforms have exacerbated South Africa's disturbingly high rate of gender-based violence and femicide. Gender specialist Dr. Vedna Dehanant Lala says the murders of Khauhelo, Marota and Nontobeko Cele are examples of performative violence.
The statistics of violence against women in South Africa, GBV and intimate partner violence and femicide, has reached devastating pandemic magnitudes. And as efforts to combat this gender-based violence intensifies, so too does technology-facilitated GBVF. In South Africa, performative violence refers to acts of violence that are recorded and disseminated by the perpetrator, not just merely to dominate the victim's life, but to shape and control the broader narrative surrounding this incident.
Doctors at Tygerberg Hospital in Cape Town have successfully performed South Africa's first living donor kidney removal using robotic surgery technology. The procedure involved a 45-year-old woman donating a kidney to a 24-year-old daughter. Dr. Danilo Duplessis carried out the surgery. Experts have described it as a milestone which makes organ donation safer and less invasive for living donors. Parliament has called on the Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Solly Malatsi to expedite the finalisation and passing of the South African Broadcasting Corporation Bill. The bill has been stalled for months due to the minister's previous indication of withdrawing it. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies has argued that the move is unconstitutional. The committee's chairperson, Kusela Diko, has raised a concern that the public broadcaster might not be able to fully function beyond December this year.
You're running a multi-billion rand corporation and you're only receiving at this point in time about 193 million rand from the fiscus, which is nothing. It's a drop in the ocean when we expect the SABC to fulfill its public mandate. If you look around the world, most public broadcasters are funded from the fiscus. If you were to ask me how much, I think where government needs to start is at least with the infrastructure and the technology refresh of the SABC. That would be in the space of between 1.5 to 2.5 billion rands.
And finally, the White House has chosen a new director of the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Its previous leader, Suzanne Monarez, has been forced out. This after resisting changes to vaccine policy that the Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy, had advanced. The BBC's Peter Bowes has the details.
The White House has moved quickly to replace Susan Monarez on an interim basis. Her lawyers said she was targeted by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. because she refused to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. 3 other senior officials have since resigned in protest at Mr. Kennedy's leadership. His deputy, Jim O'Neill, will be Ms. Monarez's replacement. He's a former Silicon Valley tech investor and takes over the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention at a time when some of its leading officials are deeply divided over vaccine policies.
Recapping the top story, Nyanga residents and community activists in Cape Town will today march to Parliament to demand justice for 25-year-old Sinande Chazabane. She was raped and murdered in a home in June. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. Visit outsurance.co.za today. You always get something out.
You are the poster child, the biggest saver we've ever had.
I decided that I would contact Outsurance and let them work out what they could do for me.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, big saving. 2,794 Rand a month.
That's over 33,000 Rand a year.
And it was the easiest switch ever. Real people helping real people get real deals.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
It's a very good morning to you. In your SFM sports headlines, rugby, the Springboks brace for a monumental Eden Park battle against the All Blacks, and that's next weekend. While in cricket, the Proteas women are in Durban for their final camp ahead of the Pakistan tour and the World Cup. We'll have the details just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Let's just centre in on the Ekurhuleni taxi strike today. With the fullness of time, this often happens. It just becomes a little bit more clearer what's going on. So at this stage, if you need a taxi in parts of Ekurhuleni, they're certainly not going to come through Benoni, Katlehong, Tembisa, Kempton Park and Germiston. Those areas seem to be where the taxi strike is in full force. No taxis going in and out of Benoni, Katlehong, Tembisa, Kempton Park and Germiston. Other parts of Ekurhuleni, taxi services are operating normally. Interesting. Crash scenes on the N17 at Osborne Road. That is Joburg bound. You've got queues coming from Brackbound to Rondebolt through roadworks, and the crashes go down to Wadeville. Crash on the N12 leaving Ekurhuleni at Atlas Road. That's heavy through from Benoni, and a smash on the N1 North just after Malabongwe Drive causing delays. A couple of crash scenes this morning between Blue Lagoon and Umhlanga on Durban's M4, the Ruth First Highway under pressure both ways. Southern Freeway coming into Durban's quite heavy as well. And Cape Town, no major incidents, although the N2 inbound is busy this Friday with queues from Robert Sobukwe all the way through to Hospital Bends. With your traffic update, I'm Rob Byrne.
The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. The Morning Brief with Thulasizwe Simelane. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 6 to 9 a.m.
Well, would you look at that? We're into the third hour of the show. What happened to the time? It feels like we were just starting not so long ago, but welcome to it. The third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief. It's just gone 10 minutes after 8. Let me start by reflecting some of the messages that you've been sending on the various topics that we've been covering this morning. I found this. Guess what, guys? I received a message from Harry Kane. Okay? Message from Harry Kane. Thank you very much. Not that Harry Kane that you're thinking of. Harry Kane with Kain, right? Harry wants to talk about artificial intelligence and says, what is divine or natural intelligence? AI got the world talking, but no one even asks, then what does genuine intelligence look like? That is the question Harry poses and throws at all of you to reflect that if we're saying this one is artificial, well, what does the natural one look like? Ordinary or divine intelligence, what does that look like is the question and the challenge from Harry Kane there. Thank you for that, Harry. Yeah, you've gotten us thinking about that. Gotten, and I'll tell you why I said gotten us, and then I'll tell you why in a moment why I'm underlining that word I just used. Then someone else here says, in relation to the Santaco situation and the impounding of the minibus taxis in Ekurhuleni, this person says, have you seen the conditions of Santaco's taxis around Midrand, Tembisa and Diepsloot? JMPD are sleeping on the job. They must impound them. So that grievance, of course, that's the one of the grievances of the Santaco leadership, especially in Ekurhuleni, that their taxes are being impounded and they feel like they are being targeted. So I used the word gotten and then I said I'm underlining it because someone here, sent a message starting with a compliment to me, and I appreciate that. And then they said they're going to say just something that I learned as a teacher of English. The word gotten is not an English word, but more American. And then they go on to say, I hope no offense taken. Thank you for that. Absolutely no offense taken. It's a word that has caught on and many people use it, gotten. So interesting when you talk about its origins. The sense I get between English, right? English as in coming from the source, ne? In the UK and those regions versus English spoken in various parts of the world. You can tell just the how people adapt it to their region and infuse it with various influences. But where I'm getting with this is that if you look at what the Americans then did with it, it's as if they really wanted to put a C between the English spoken in the US and the English as it was, with their kith and kin across the ocean. Something rooted in their history, I suppose, and they just wanted a clean break. Much of what they speak in the United Kingdom, so very different from what they speak in the United States. Well, that's that then. Some of your messages coming through. I will take your calls. The number to dial 086 000 2032 or send me a WhatsApp voice note 061 410 4107. Let's get the third hour of the Friday edition of the Morning Brief underway.
Bafana Bafana will host Nigeria in a FIFA 2026 World Cup qualifier at the Toyota Stadium on Tuesday, 9 September at 6 p.m. Tickets are now available nationwide and online from 70 Rand for adults and 40 Rand for children at all Ticket Pro outlets, including Spar, Postnet, and all petrol stations. Get your tickets early to avoid disappointment. Come in Bafana Bafana supporter gear, ready to sing for a win. Gates will open at 3 p.m. If you are not in Bloemfontein, catch the game on SABC2. For more information, visit safa.net and at Bafana Bafana on all social media channels.
This is Thulasizwe Simelane on the Morning Brief.
All right, this next conversation is brought to you and sponsored by the Department of Higher Education and Training. It's a follow-on from the conversation we had yesterday with the Deputy Minister in that department, Dr. Nomusa Dube-Ncube, who officially handed over the Aliwal North Engineering Campus of Ikhala TVET College. So joining us now is Lunga Malindi, who is the Ikhala TVET College Deputy Principal responsible for corporate services. And we are focusing on one aspect of the running of that institution, and that is corporate services. Good morning to you, Mr. Malindi, and thank you for your time. Tell us about how your unit and division, corporate services, fits in and serves the needs of students at an institution like Ikhala TVET College.
Good morning, Simelane. Thank you to help me. Good morning to your listeners. Corporate services is a strategic partner within the college. It is a support services, and then it's got different sections within the institution itself. That's how we fit. We are a partner within the institution, a strategic partner within the institutions as a whole. Remember, the institution is all over 2 district municipalities.
Yeah. So being a partner as you are, what are some of the key operational areas that you oversee? Give us examples and how those facilitate the smooth running of the institution and the experience of students.
We oversee different sections such as human resources and development, which include HRD within that section. We have ICT, we have labor relations, we have marketing and communications, we have facilities and records management, and then we have infrastructure. Now, all these have section heads. Our special focus, because we deal with students, if we deal with students, then your integration will be related to human resources, because it talks about lecturer development. And then you will have also facilities and management, including infrastructure, because it also deals with issues of accommodation and development of new infrastructure. So that's where we come in as a corporate service to ensure that we have better facilities that are conducive to teaching and learning, not only to students, but also to staff members that are delivering, that is such as lecturers or academic staff.
And you're doing this, doing all of this across multiple campuses. Tell me about what challenges come with that.
We're doing that across various campuses. Remember that we have 7 campuses, including the head office, that is admin center, meaning that we have 8 sites that we operate. We are a rural institution, and then with far-flung areas, such as, because our head office is in Queenstown, in Komani, and then we have areas such as far-flung, such as Expert in Joburg District, Alwal North, also in Joburg District. We ensure that these must ensure that these are also catered into, and then we install a high-end Wi-Fi system so that we are live everywhere. And then we also installed interactive boards to make life easier for teaching and learning, to make life easier for students, to also make life easier for academic staff that are delivering services. Now, with this technology, you can be able to deliver a class while you are in Queenstown Engineering Campus, for example, in Esbele Engineering Campus in Queenstown, in Coman. You can deliver one class across the college. So students will benefit a lot to those high-end developments.
Yeah. So with all of those already that you've already covered, just looking ahead, what other improvements and innovations are you looking at introducing within corporate services in order to strengthen the operations and enhance the student experience?
Looking ahead, so far, the shortcoming that is prevalent, that is affecting any rural institution, is accommodations for students. And then it's also, because we're attracting students all over the country. And then it is also the infrastructure within the institution, because the institution has developed, and we're having something like 9,000 plus students. So we've grown from a lesser number that was then 5,000 to 7,000, but now we are way above that. And then we have to strengthen those, and then ensure that there is better facilities for everyone to be able to be accommodated. And then further to that, I think if we have resources, more resources, we would have give laptops, for example, to our students to ensure that they are catered for. But we don't have such luxury of funding that is available. That is our wish going forward, to ensure that we don't have a student that does not have a gadget to research, a gadget to ensure that she or he comes to ICALA and then be successful students, because he's got everything in his or her space to start and pass his diploma.
All right. Thank you for that conversation and sharing some of the innovations that you are introducing at ICALA TVET College. That's the Deputy Principal for Corporate Services at ICALA TVET College. That's Lunga Malindi. And as I said, that conversation was brought to you and sponsored by the Department of Higher Education and Training.
This week on Off-Pitch Goals, Sonono and Sanela Khoza join us and take us through the storied success of the Zodwa Khoza Foundation. We talk legacy, community building, and youth career pathways. Tune in to SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 this Saturday, 30 August at 6:30 p.m. Also available everywhere for everyone. Always on SABC Plus. Off-pitch goals, where we showcase how the stars score in business. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Call Thulasizwe now. 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's fit in one or two of your voice notes. I see someone sent a voice note here about Rob Byrne, right? What can anyone really have to say about the legend that is Rob Byrne? We should be nominating him for some. Is there no order we can nominate Rob for? I mean, the guy, legend. Ofi Kamanga. Let's hear what this person has to say with the Honorable Rob Byrne.
Hey, Thulas. You see the way Rob Byrne is pronouncing Katlehong, saying Katlehong. Yeah, everyone can love to go to Katlehong, man. It seems like a very nice place.
Katlehong.
Yeah, no, man, you gotta love Rob Byrne.
Absolutely.
Nice show, Thulas.
Yeah, you've got to love Rob Byrne. Who doesn't? We love how he pronounces umgeni. Yeah, that emphasis umgeni. Now Katlehong and then Qabecha. Qabecha is the other one. Speaking of pronunciation, let's hear what this person has to say about the English language.
Morning, Thulasizwe and the listeners. I'm just developing the interest to know, out of all this English in this world, why have we chosen the UK one? Why don't we have our own South African English? I'm asking this as I am in a professional.
Yeah.
In the higher education, I'm also a professor. Yeah. I just want to know, just brought me the interest to this one. Thank you.
Fascinating, isn't it? We do have South African English, but you are right, it is largely based on pronunciations and styles of the UK version of English. But we did tweak it and infuse our own, eccentric emphasis here and there. We made it our own, right? But I get what you are asking. For me, I would love something like, is it patois? Pidgin English, and that they speak in various parts of the world. There's Jamaican patois. There's, I think, Nigerian. In Nigeria, they have that pidgin English. I always find those to be fascinating, and I do wish I could speak a bit of that. As a result, my subscription and following of BBC News is the pidgin one, so that I'm challenged to figure out where them speak. What are they talking about? But I get what you're saying. Make it your own. When it left the United Kingdom all of those centuries ago, they should have made peace with it, that we were going to receive it and we were going to put a spin on it and do with it what we will. Lefuku, speaking of that, what's the word? Good morning. Talk to me about electricity. You saw what I did there, right?
I know. I'm worried. Friend of mine bought property in Midrand.
Yeah.
New estate, new development. And then the first month gets a bill of 422.95 for electricity. He calls and asks this electricity people, what is this about? They tell him, no, this is the ESCOM monthly fixed charge. Monthly fixed, for network, whatever. What is this, Thulas? So even if you are off the grid, ESCOM will be charging this person a monthly fee of 422 Thulas of electricity. I thought ESCOM had lost in the High Court this case of this fixed surge charge or something. Thulas, what is happening? Because in Pretoria, in the north, there's no this fixed charge or whatever thing that's so high. Can someone please tell us what is going on? what the hell is this, Thulas?
Yeah, no, I hear you. And actually, that's a great suggestion, Lefuko. And it comes at the right time because the story we covered a few days ago, and I know that's not what you're talking about now, about the tariff that was determined by NERSA for Eskom. That story has since moved and it has implications for us for the price of electricity. So that fixed charge that you're talking about, it will be worth revisiting and getting someone to break down the ABCs of how is the price of electricity determined, what is this fixed charge, and which municipalities charge it and which ones don't. Yeah.
Thanks, man.
No, thank you for that. That's Lefuko in the Northwest. They're weighing in about the price of electricity. Before we go to Zai, let me quickly take this one that has to do with the situation around burial sites and what we've been discussing about alternative forms of burials.
Good morning to us. It's Shatta Komakhalong. With the issue of burial sites, I think we should change the pattern of how we bury our people. We should maybe bury our people maybe standing up. We dig maybe a shallow grave, that can fit a person standing up, because when they are lying down, they take too much space,
Yeah. Thank you for that. You have no idea how happy Zelma Kribi, our technical producer, is to hear you saying this. She's been suggesting that since we started with the topic yesterday to say, why not get into the practice of burying people standing if we're talking about space. Just to be clear, though, the city of Joburg says we are not in crisis terrain yet. So, in fact, at the last count, they were talking about we have enough burial space for 50 to 60 years. But it's on an unsustainable path as these cemeteries are filling up. They're now saying consider alternative burials so that we get it clear that we're not talking about an immediate crisis. I'm about to introduce you and then you move to the door, Zaikan. What's happening?
What is this? Get up and pick on Zaikan Day. This is why I feel like maybe I should work from home.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
So a monumental battle at Eden Park for the Springboks, yeah?
Oh, yeah. They haven't won in 88 years. So if Rusty Erasmus men can pull this off, oh, man, it'll be a history book again that's going to be written for us. It's an absolute cliffhanger to happen at Eden Park. The Boks will take on the All Blacks. Both teams arrive under pressure. The Boks split their series with the Wallabies while the All Blacks return home after a rare defeat in Argentina. Kick off September 6th in Auckland, and we are building up to it right here to rally behind our Bokke. At the same time, we're rallying behind the Proteas women who are in Durban for a crucial training camp. They gear up for both the Pakistan tour and the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup starting next month in India and Sri Lanka. A 20-player group is in camp. You've got stalwarts like Sine Lewis, Tasman Brits and Ayabonga Kaka, alongside rising talents such as Luyanda Nzuza and Seshni Naidu. Coach Mandla Mashimbi says the camp is vital for a fine-tuning ahead of the 3-match ODI series against Pakistan before shifting focus to the World Cup. In the men's Proteas team, their batting coach Ashwell Prince has acknowledged that their top-order batters have not fired on all cylinders, but says they are happy with the impact they've had on matches. Coach Shukri Conrad is a huge fan of Ryan Rickleton and his opening partnership with Aidan Markram, which hasn't exactly borne the ripe fruit he's looking for. The team is currently in England for another 3-match ODI series.
And as you say, it is a rhythm thing. Sometimes that can happen. And we're working on that. Most of the communication is about trying to free people up. That's the big thing. And sometimes, with Shooks and his style of play that he wants us to play, or wants the guys to play, it's front foot style. And if anything, Rickleton is naturally a positive player. But if anything, from Shooks' point of view, he might want a little bit more aggression. And sometimes, it can take time for people to settle into that mindset and style of play. But we do encourage that, and I'm sure we'll see the best of him soon again.
And we move on to this story. Lesotho's national 10-kilometer record holder, Neheng Katala, is aiming to defend a Hollywood Bet's Durban 10-kilometer crown this weekend after storming to victory last year. She says her preparations are on track.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been preparing. My preparation has been going well. Mentally, physically, psychologically, I'm fit. So I just have to run the clever race on Saturday. Yeah.
And that's a wrap. We'll be back with John Gericke, 12:30. I'm Zaikad.
Good morning, I'm Anne Musa. In the headlines, the Western Cape Mobility Department has approached the High Court in Cape Town to seek an urgent interdict to stop the ongoing violence between rival taxi associations, Kata and Kodeta. The Nyanga residents and community activists in Cape Town will today march to Parliament to demand justice for 25-year-old Zinande Chasabane. She was raped and murdered in a home in June. And a Kenyan official says there fears a doomsday cult suspected of causing the deaths of more than 400 people is making a comeback. The alleged leader, Paul Mackenzie, is on trial. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still slow on the roads coming through Ekurhuleni region this morning. Extra traffic volume because the buses and taxis suspended in parts, but also because of this crash on the N17 going down to Osborne Road. So coming through from Rondebolt Road on your way into Wadeville, it is heavy. N3, Ekurhuleni, plenty of traffic there between Germiston and Edenvale. Behind that, N12 and R24 is queued up into Galulis. Also a crash on the M1 North just past Malabongwe Drive, still causing a heavy backlog coming through from Randburg to Fourways. And a crash before Rigel Avenue. It's been there a long time this morning, traffic heavy from Atterbury side. Durban still with a crash on the M4 going northbound between Durban North and Mshlanga, just up by Glen Ashley. It's quite slow. The N2 North also under pressure due to a breakdown at Mshlanga, and right in the middle between that breakdown and the crash up on Mshlanga Rocks Drive, that's full of traffic going slowly on an alternative route-seeking mission. Cape Town, the N1 inbound, a crash at Hill Basson, slowing traffic coming off Platter Cliff Hill. The N2 inbound from Langa, the M5 inbound from Kenilworth. Both of those routes still very jammed up for a Friday morning as you make your way through the Hospital Bend territory. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Let's say good morning one more time for this morning to Ndauleng Lechela. And Ndauleng, let's start with producer prices. You're saying that they accelerated in July.
That's right, Thulas. Prices at the factory gate quickened last month, up 1.5% from 0.6% in June. Food prices were a major driver of the increase, with meat and meat products surging 8.2% on a year-on-year basis. Now, beef prices in particular being hard hit by the foot and mouth disease. We've seen a steady uptick on that front for the last 2 to 3 months. Other categories such as petroleum, chemical, and plastic products also saw significant price increases. Electricity and water costs also rose sharply, mainly due to the spike in water tariffs and electricity prices last month. In the mining sector, we saw annual inflation accelerating by 7.5%, driven by sharp increases in stone quarrying and gold and other metal ores. Agricultural inflation stood at 6.5%, despite a monthly decline in crop prices. Now, moving ahead, economists expect producer inflation to increase further, driven by food prices and potential risks such as animal diseases and global oil price fluctuations. However, some analysts believe downward pressure on food inflation may continue due to factors like higher field crop production and contained global oil prices. Now, the PPI print is important as it is a key indicator of inflationary trends in the economy, and it can signal future movements in consumer inflation.
Is Sabawell still a word on social media, darling? Do you know?
Yes.
Sabawell. Sabawell dividends, eh? Sabawell dividends. Sabawell, the Impala Platinum shareholders. Tell me about them. Yeah, a reason to smile for them, yeah?
That's right, Thulas. And I wish I was a PGM bull and I stayed, the long haul and invested in PGMs and didn't
Sabawell.
leave like every. Now, the platinum miner, of course, surprised shareholders with a dividend, and this despite reporting a decline in earnings. During the full year period, Implats issued a payout with 165 cents per share. Now, this is the first dividend in nearly 2 years and comes as the miner is positive about its prospects. The improved outlook is attributed to a surge in platinum prices this year, which have risen over 50%. Implats also expects refined volumes to improve, unlocking cash for high work in progress inventories. Now, the dividend declaration is seen as a vote of confidence in the company's balance sheet and prospects, with analysts noting that the company's improved outlook is driven by a combination of factors. Looking at its annual performance, though profits declined 70% to 732 million rand due to lower sales volumes and muted rand PGM prices during the period. Markets, however, shrugged this off as the share price ended yesterday's trading session over 2% higher.
All right, so it's a Friday. What kind of a trading day can we expect?
So local markets likely to start the last day of trade for the week mixed following international peers. Results still filtering through with numbers out from Northern Platinum, Mass PLC, and a trading update from Super Group. So traders will be digesting all of that at the open. Meanwhile, in currency markets, the rand is still on the back foot, sitting at 17.71 to the greenback. Oil, in the meantime, slightly pulling back this hour, down close to 0.5%. However, still at $67 per barrel. And then back to stocks, U.S. futures are in the red, and this ahead of the PCE print, which is the Fed's preferred inflation measure. Investors in Asia also eyeing that print, and ahead of it, markets in that region are mixed.
All right, thank you for that, Morek. We'll talk again on Monday. Cheers, Ntauling. Have yourself a fantastic weekend. Ntauling Lechela keeping you updated on business, economics, and the markets throughout the morning here on the Morning Brief.
The green and gold of Mzansi Africa and the green and white of Nigeria have a massive rivalry in search of victory. Bafana Bafana tackles the Super Eagles. The South clashes with the West. This is the FIFA World Cup African qualifier. South Africa versus Nigeria on Tuesday, 9 September at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Also available on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Thulasizwe Simelane is streaming live now on Facebook, YouTube, and X at SFM Radio.
Yeah, we can laugh and joke all we want, but this story is quite serious. The country facing a worrying rise in measles infections, with health authorities growing increasingly concerned. More than 700 cases have been confirmed so far this year, the bulk of them in Gauteng's big metros. Officials say most infections are in children between the ages of 1 and 14, many of whom missed their routine vaccinations. So there's a growing concern about vaccine hesitancy, especially in the wake of COVID-19, and that the concern is that is making the situation worse. Let's speak to Dr. Lerato Skosana, head of the Outbreak Response Unit at the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, NICD. Good morning to you, and thank you for your time. You are the people that we hear from when there's a disease situation that is of concern. Ordinarily, we let you get on with your work without touching base with you. And you are growing increasingly concerned about the measles situation. The response has been ongoing for some time. What are the patterns? What are you seeing? Are we starting to break the spine of this outbreak or not?
Thank you so much for the platform. Just to share with the viewers so that they're aware of the actual situation of the cases on the ground. As you correctly said, the most affected provinces are Gauteng, Free State, Limpopo, and Mpumalanga. In the Gauteng province, it's the city of Tshwane, city of Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni that are most affected. In Free State, it's the Legally district, particularly the Northern
Dr. Skosan,
Matabele.
I do apologize. I think we have your phone is a bit muzzled. Let me see if we can ask you to just hold it slightly differently. If maybe we're on speakerphone and perhaps you can hold it to the ear and hold it slightly away from your mouth as you pick up on that point. So you were talking about the provinces that are of concern to you. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. I think it's slightly
Is
better.
that better?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, in Free State, it's the Legally district that mostly affected, particularly the Nala and Matabele municipalities. In Limpopo, it's the Vembe district, and in Mpumalanga, it's the Nkangala district that's mostly affected. I am emphasizing on this so that, of course, the affected districts and communities within those districts then become aware that indeed there is a measles outbreak. And as you correctly said, in terms of the age distribution, most of the cases have been in children between the ages of 1 and 14. And yes, this by and large speaks to low vaccine coverage. And unfortunately, the COVID pandemic contributed to this because of the disruption of healthcare programs, including routine childhood immunization services, which then in turn contributed to the reduced vaccine coverage. And yes, also the second point that you made about vaccine hesitancy is also an important contributor. And this is the case not just in South Africa, but globally as well. Vaccine hesitancy is an important contributor in lowering vaccine coverage. And it leads to the delay of acceptance of vaccines or even refusals of vaccines, even those that were previously accepted as safe and efficacious or effective.
Yeah. In fact, please draw a comparison for us if you can. You don't have to use specific figures. My understanding is that we were at a point thinking that measles, given that it's vaccine preventable, it was going to be a disease that, is in the distant past if people stuck to vaccination regimes. Are you able to compare where we are now, not just in South Africa, but across the world with measles to where we were in the past when we still thought that, given the levels of vaccine coverage of children at 6 months and at 12 months, we were making progress with this disease?
So we were, and as I previously mentioned, the two important contributing factors that have lowered the vaccine coverage, which is the disruption of healthcare programs and vaccine hesitancy, has unfortunately almost reversed our gains. So I don't have the figures with me at the moment, but what I can assure you is that because of the public health response activities that are undergoing in the affected districts, we are hoping that we'll be able to control these outbreaks. And these responses, of course, include contact tracing of individuals who were in close contact with the cases and vaccinating those contacts. So that will help in improving population immunity. And then there's also supplementary immunization activities that are targeted in the most affected areas. So this is also in the hope of increasing population and immunity so that we can once again have those gains, so enjoy the gains that we had just before the COVID pandemic in terms of the control of the disease.
Is there an element, Doc, that talks to this being a disease that is perhaps not as understood as it should be, in that many people think it's innocuous and harmless and, all you'll have is just a bit of discomfort. But actually it does have complications that can arise, does it?
Yes, it does. So firstly, let me say, measles is very contagious. It spreads rather easily, particularly in populations where the vaccine coverage is suboptimal. And yes, in terms of complications, these include the scarring of the cornea of the eye, which can cause blindness, pneumonia. It can affect the brain, leading to a condition called encephalitis, and unfortunately can also cause death. So communities may be aware of the general presentation of measles, which is fever and the rash, and then either a cough, conjunctivitis, which is redness of the eye, and coryza, which is the runny nose. But it's important for communities to know that if the disease becomes complicated and is not managed as it should, then those complications that I've mentioned can unfortunately occur.
So to those parents then listening to us having this conversation, this is a vaccine that's administered very early on in a young person's life, as is shown by the ranges of ages that you were talking to in the last few minutes. What's your message about the safety, effectiveness and efficacy of the vaccines?
So I think, firstly, in order to deal with the issue of vaccine hesitancy, one of the important pillars of addressing this is building a trusting relationship with communities, and that involves also informing communities about what is known, what is unknown about vaccines, and being transparent about even potential side effects. So yes, there are known side effects of measles vaccines, but these are usually mild and self-limited. They include symptoms such as fever and a rash and a headache, and reactions even in the injection site, such as pain, redness, and swelling. Yes? So part of also dealing with vaccine hesitancy would mean that we also need to be quite forthright about information about what is known about potential side effects of the infection. But as I mentioned, they are mild and they are self-limited, and they're definitely not comparable to the complications of natural measles infection. So these complications, as I had mentioned, pneumonia, corneal scarring, which can lead to blindness and encephalitis and death, are much more important than the common adverse reactions that could result from the vaccine itself.
All right. Let's leave it there for this morning. Thank you for sharing that public health message with us. That's Dr. Lerato Skhosana, who is head of the Outbreak Response Unit at the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, the NICD.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very slow coming through Pretoria on the M1 South. An earlier crash by Rigel Avenue has got traffic sluggish from as far back just a little bit beyond Garsfontein. Crash on Joburg's M1 North after Malabongwe Drive. Traffic quite slow coming through from Randburg on your way to Four Ways today. And a crash on the N17 at Osborne Road. Still taking some time to clear away if you're leaving Ekurhuleni side this morning. Durban traffic got that breakdown on the N2 going north before Gateway. It's quite heavy now. Queues back through towards the Kwamashu Highway exit. The earlier collisions on the M4 around Durban North and Glen Ashley, that's all been cleared up. So if you're in a hurry to get to the airport, the M4 looks good from central Durban rather than the N2. Roadworks back in this morning, nice and early on the M13 between Kloof and Maytime. If you're trying to get through to Hillcrest, factor in some queue time there. Looks like everyone into a single lane. And Cape Town crash, N1 into town at Hill Basom, slow coming off Plattercliff Hill into that one. And for a Friday, the N2 and M5 routes remain fairly busy. N2 inbound from sort of Jan Smuts in the M5 from Crombourne Road. This heavy getting up and through Hospital Bend this morning. With your traffic updates, I'm Rob Byrne.
Lina Lakake Tlampokekana, I'm former Mamelodi Sundowns captain. I'm a sports analyst la go SABC Sport. When I'm home, I try by all means to practice cooking. My favorite home cooked meal, I'll go for pap and masonja because I can prepare that with easy. What do I normally get up to when I get a moment to myself where I would easily, play my guitar? I try to practice a lot of Tracy Chapman. My favorite foreign language is French. Bonjour, comment ça va? So if I didn't play beautiful football, I think I was gonna be a baseball player. What do I like about SABC Sport is the fact that we given an opportunity to educate.
Catch the exciting Diski analysis by Sompo Long Range Kekana on match days live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Mzansi
Presidency. The Powerball and Powerball Plus jackpots estimated at a total 85 million rand are your chance at an unforgettable Friday. Don't delay. Play Powerball for an estimated 37 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 48 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
South African National Parks, SANParks, is hosting the inaugural Vision 2040 Indaba in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape from the 3rd to the 5th of September 2025. The Indaba will advance South Africa's long-term strategy of reimagining conservation as an inclusive, community-driven and economically empowering endeavor. The year's Indaba marks the implementation of Vision 2040 as stakeholders will discuss a future where people and nature thrive together. Vision 2040, championing the harmony of people and nature.
Call Thulasizwe now, 086 000 2032.
Yeah, let's get straight into it then and wrap up the show with some of your inputs and comments as they've been coming through on the various topics we were covering. Someone here says English as she is spoken and then goes on to pay me a compliment, for which I do thank you, Sangari. Then you go on to say, on the subject of English, each time I hear the advert for Jet Set Breakfast Show where Michelle Constant says, and I quote, "My team and I chuckle thinking of the purists who must be cringing. I think it should be my team and me," says Sangari in Durban. I don't know, eh? I think it's my team and I, but I don't know. Someone else might know. Hey, English, ne? Say hoa. But thank you for that, and thank you for engaging in that conversation. I wonder what I would probably also say my team and I, or me and my team. Me and my team. I think, that would be my way of saying that. All right, let's go to the voice notes. Let me take one or two. Someone wants to weigh in on burials. In fact, let me start with the ones that came in a bit earlier on. Let's start with this one on the G20, what this person has to say about the G20.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. Good morning to the SAFM listeners. We have about 100 days towards the G20 summit to be held in South Africa. And there are no signs of the US president intending to attend this summit. It will show a high level of disrespect if he does not physically come here, because there is also a process of handing over the G20 presidency to the USA. They don't respect Africa at large, from my point of view, if they don't come.
Segwanele, thank you for that. But I don't know if it's really about Africa as such. It's more to do with their attitude and approach to international institutions in general, right? They've not been engaging at any level with these processes. And you're absolutely correct. The transition requires the immediate past president, the incoming president, as well as the president that was there before South Africa. So Brazil, South Africa, and then the United States were supposed to be the troika that oversees the transition. But I think there's a growing realization that it may work quite differently from how it has worked in the past. Someone wants to talk about Uber drivers.
Good morning to Thulasizwe. You're speaking to Anonymous from Shawela. I'm an Uber driver. Could you kindly ask Vicente there what he is doing about the killing of the Uber drivers by the taxi drivers? What he is doing? Because I never hear anything from the office of the president. Thank you.
Yeah. So that whole issue, we've covered it quite extensively in the last few days. These little tensions and battles that are raging in the country's public transportation system, the rivalries that spill out into battles and violence with the result that people die. In fact, I think I saw one in KZN yesterday, an incident. I'm not sure if anyone died, but I did see clashes that were playing themselves out there. You do get a sense that at some point someone has to be attentive and put a stop to all of this. A quick one on AI. We've been talking AI, intellectual property, copyright, and AI inventorship. What are the rules there? Let's hear what this person has to say about that.
Hi, Tulas, Koras Mabulwana and Pulukwane here. I just want to comment on the earlier interview you had with your guest regarding AI and intellectual property ownership. I'd want to believe that AI is a tool. So if I come up with a creative prompt to generate something very interesting, I should be able to own copyright of that output. Just as in when you are a cameraman and then you take a picture, you own copyright for that particular picture, although you used a camera to take it and not necessarily drew it. So it should be the same. Thank you.
So it's not the camera that holds copyright. I get what you're saying, but I commend the judgment, the decision of I think it's CIPC. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's the CIPC about it's called DABUS. So DABUS. Look it up, where AI itself was recognized as the inventor, not as a tool. It was recognized as this AI invented, and I think it's something that makes containers, plastic containers. It's a subject of a huge debate within the legal space, particularly as it relates to inventorship, intellectual property, trademarks, and the likes. Read it up. You'll find it fascinating, and compare with how other jurisdictions have dealt with this issue, where the human element is needed for inventorship to be recognized. Let me go to the calls. Ntlantla in KZN. Good morning to you.
Good morning, my brother.
My brother, it's been a while, my brother.
Yeah, last time we spoke, you told me I must go to read one of the books of
yes,
the leader of the ANC.
Oliver Tambo's Dream.
Yeah, Oliver Tambo.
By Justice Albie Sachs. Is it Albie Sachs?
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, with Oliver Tambo, I got a problem with him alone. Because in two books which were written by Teberanguba Toby and Peter Detroit, ANC billionaires and the land matters or the land is ours.
Yeah.
He gets to come out as a person who had sold out by deviating from the Freedom Charter, and also his daughter was married to one of the oppressors, Thembi Tambo. Yes.
All right.
Yeah. I was just passing.
Yes. That's why I'm rushing you, because your point is about security. Please get to that. We'll discuss Oliver Tambo and his legacy, and I think many people would disagree with you on what you just said. But it's fine. It's fine, Tlantla. I think because of time, let me get you to security. Please go ahead on that quickly.
With security, that's what I said. So, Syrup is selling us out as security protection people first. There are security companies mostly in Chatsworth, all over Chatsworth. They are paying people. They are let me say most cases, because there are also different places which get to pay people 3,000 rand, paid 50 rand per day, and you get to ask yourself, how is Syria operating? Because last time they came on radio when you did invite them, they spoken as if they are doing a Super Bowl. While they are just compromising the safety of the people who are supposed to be protected.
Yeah, Tlantla, I've got to leave it there. Unfortunately, I'm out of time. Thank you for that. Warren in Stutterheim, let's end it off very nicely for us, very quickly, please.
Good morning, listeners and the crew. English. It's a bit of a mess at the moment because South Africa has developed its own very much. You're either very happy or you're happy, but you can't be very much happy. But that's by the way. We've got our own way of talking in this country. And it's recognizable. I did business for a long time, only on the phone. I never saw people. And it was one of those strange things that you hear every different accent from people, mispronunciation of names. But you take, Rob is an Australian. We're lucky that we didn't get a whole lot of Irish prisoners.
Yeah.
They were sent to Australia, New Zealand, and Tasmania. But they could have landed up in Simonstown. Had a look at history. It was quite an interesting little episode.
All right. Warren?
Have a good day.
You too.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm out of time. Thank you for that. I noticed that you were also wrapping up. Thank you for that. That's Warren out in Stutterheim. A fascinating conversation that grew generically, right? It just, grew on its own throughout the show this morning, that talks about the language English and how it's spoken in various regions, including South Africa. That's how we come to the end of today's edition of The Morning Brief. Thank you for listening and thank you for your engagement as always. The Talking Point with Kethi Mohlahlana is up next after the news with N. Musa. I'm Thulasizwe Simelane. You've been briefed.
In our top stories, Western Cape Mobility Department approaches court amid escalating taxi violence and a march to Parliament over brutal killing of Zinande. Good morning. The Western Cape Mobility Department has approached the High Court in Cape Town to seek an urgent interdict to stop the ongoing violence between rival taxi associations, Kata and Kodeta. A dispute over routes from Fuleni and Kailicha to Somerset West has led to 5 deaths and 9 injuries in shooting incidents at taxi ranks in Philippi East, Kailicha and Makassar this week. The department is pushing for the court to compel both associations to halt the deadly attacks. Nkululeko Sityabi is the spokesperson of Kata.
The one thing that Qatar is willing to do is to sit around the table